Chapter 277. If something happened to Chui Haoyin and the others in the Luoyun Mountains, they wouldn't feel good. They will definitely come back safely. Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was gentle and full of comfort. At this point, they had done everything they could. They could only wait here for news. Fu Hongbo nodded slightly, his dignified face dignified. This time there were a lot of students in the Luoyun Mountains, and now there are no more than 10 people who have returned. As soon as these words came out, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others' hearts sank. Although they didn't know each other, they were all students of the school. They also hoped that they would be safe. The school also had a lot of losses this time. Liu Huaiyan's eyes were dark. Obviously, he hadn't had a good rest these days. This time, even the principal and vice principal were alarmed. Bailey Hongzhuang's clear and bright phoenix eyes flashed. She also had a certain understanding of the principal and vice principal. The principal of the school, Run Tianxiong, was a strong person. He was usually in closed-door cultivation. Unless there was a serious matter, he generally wouldn't appear. Almost all of the school's affairs were handed over to the teachers. The vice principal, Huan Chuyu, was a powerful fourth-grade alchemist. His alchemy skills were at the peak. Even in Fengbo country, the strongest alchemist was only 4th grade. This showed the strength of Huan Chuyu. But this vice principal also studied alchemy all year round, and generally wouldn't interfere with the school's affairs. This time the principal and vice principal appeared together, showing the influence of the monster tide. If the loss of students this time is too great, maybe we will lower the threshold slightly and recruit some more students. Liu Huaiyan's face showed a bit of exhaustion and helplessness. In the history of the school, such a thing had never happened. Students going out to gain experience had its own risks. In the past, there were cultivators who died because of this, but this time the loss was too great. They almost didn't know how to explain. Gong Shaoqing and the others' faces showed a touch of shock. They would actually recruit some more students? From this point, they understood that the matter this time was too serious. The 4 of you must be tired from rushing back. Go back and have a good rest. Fu Hongbo said with concern. From the exhaustion that these little fellows inadvertently revealed, it could be seen that they must have rushed back these days. Their bodies had long been overloaded, and they must have a good rest. Then we'll head back first. If there's anything you need us to do, feel free to let us know. Gong Shaoqing's handsome and cold face was full of sincerity, and his unwavering eyes were full of reliable strength. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows, her clear eyes revealing some surprise. Originally, she thought that someone as cold as Gong Shaoqing would only cultivate by himself. She didn't expect him to be so concerned about the matters of the academy. Bailey Hongzhuang returned to the dormitory and lay limply on the bed. Xiao He, Xiao Bai, and Bai Shi each found a comfortable place to rest. Phew! Bailey Hongzhuang took a deep breath. These days of high-intensity travel had caused her body to show a trace of discomfort. She had to start improving her physical strength. Chapter 278. Now that she was completely exhausted, this was the best time to absorb the medicinal effects. With the addition of the emerald green medicinal liquid, the originally clear and transparent warm water was instantly dyed with a touch of emerald green. The green color continued to ripple and fuse with the clear water, and the clear water completely turned into an emerald green medicinal liquid. Bailey Hongzhuang entered the wooden basin, and the warm medicinal liquid surrounded her. Her originally tense muscles gradually relaxed under the warmth of the hot water. Meanwhile, the medicinal power flowed into his body through his pores, constantly strengthening every bit of energy in his cells. Bailey Hongzhuang closed her eyes. This was also a kind of enjoyment. The process of absorbing the medicinal effects was not painful. On the contrary, it was very comfortable. However, in order to successfully absorb the medicinal effects, she had to completely squeeze out every ounce of energy in her body. This was not an easy task. In this comfortable environment, Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but fall into a deep sleep. The curtain of night slowly fell, and the sky was filled with stars, shining brightly. Creak! A soft sound came from outside the window. Bailey Hongzhuang still had her eyes tightly closed. She had been too tired these days, so she fell into a deep sleep when she relaxed. Master, Xiaohei called out to Bailey Hongzhuang through telepathy. Visiting in the middle of the night, she was most likely not a good person. Master, Little Black shouted twice in a row. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyebrows wrinkled, and her mind sobered up in a very short period of time. A cold light flashed in her deep phoenix eyes. She pulled a piece of clothing not far away to cover her body. Her white clothes fluttered and her black hair poured down. It was like a landscape painting, elegant and charming. At the same time, a white figure also appeared in the room. Wife! The familiar voice startled Bailey Hongzhuang. In her line of sight, Di Beichen was still dressed in a white soft robe. Dark plum blossoms were embellished on his robe, fresh and elegant. His godlike handsome face had a teasing smile, and his eyes that were as bright as the stars were even more dazzling, blooming with infinite brilliance. However, Di Beichen raised his eyebrows with a hint of mockery and teasing. Bailey Hongzhuang realized the awkward situation in front of her. Her clothes were almost all white, and at this moment they barely covered her body, but they were still faintly discernible. Di Beichen's starry eyes were clearly dyed with a bit of fire, and his gaze was firmly locked onto her body. There was an ambiguous factor in the air. Not using the front door in the middle of the night is not what a gentleman should do. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows slightly. Her black eyes were not nervous at all. Instead, they were unusually calm. Di Beichen's beautiful lips curved into a devilish smile as he sized up Bailey Hongzhuang unscrupulously. "I'm your husband. What's wrong with me coming to your room in the middle of the night?" Di Beichen was in a very good mood. Along the way, his face was gloomy like water, and his heart was uneasy. When he arrived at Songlan School, he heard the students say that Bailey Hongzhuang had returned safe and sound. His heart was ecstatic, but also uneasy. He just wanted to see Bailey Hongzhuang as soon as possible. He didn't even knock on the door and directly barged in through the window. The moment he saw Bailey Hongzhuang, his heart rose from hell to heaven. However, looking at the charming and tender scene in front of him, he was a bit restless. Bailey Hongzhuang choked. "You know, we're not a real husband and wife." Chapter 279. Bailey Hongzhuang's pretty face froze as she looked at Di Beichen in astonishment. This guy really wouldn't stop until he said something shocking. "Who wants to give birth to your child?" Please, they were just helping each other out. What was he trying to do with that ambiguous and shy look on his face? Di Beichen's smile faded and his eyes darkened. His long and fine eyelashes drooped down slightly, leaving a shadow. His voice sounded even more desolate. "Wifey, do you hate me that much?" "Hate?" Bailey Hongzhuang was stunned. She was used to Di Beichen's cheeky smile. Seeing Di Beichen like this made her heart feel a little stifled. She asked herself honestly, she didn't hate Di Beichen. On the contrary, she was very fortunate to have met Di Beichen. "No," Bailey Hongzhuang spoke slowly. She had never hated Di Beichen and didn't want to see him in such a dejected state. In the next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang only saw a flash of white light in front of her eyes before she found herself lying on a large bed. Di Beichen covered her body with only a layer of clothing between them. His handsome face that didn't look like a mortal's shone brilliantly. Di Beichen curved his lips into a faint smile. "I knew it. Wifey has me in your heart. Damn it. This guy's desolation from before was probably all an act. She should have long been used to this guy's slyness and shamelessness, but she still fell for it." Di Beichen's handsome face was just inches away from her. His starry eyes were burning with passion and his skin was boiling hot. The ambiguous atmosphere made her blush and her heart beat faster. "Wifey," his deep voice was filled with ambiguity and heat. Di Beichen inched closer to Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang's almond-shaped eyes widened. She instinctively felt danger and immediately shouted, "Di Beichen, you get out of here right now." Her exquisite and beautiful face blushed, and her deep almond-shaped eyes flashed with a trace of panic. She had never been so close to a man in her previous life. If it was any other life, she would still be able to deal with it. But in this situation, she really didn't know what to do. Di Beichen inched closer to Bailey Hongzhuang. Seeing the calmness on Bailey Hongzhuang's face dissipate bit by bit, the passion in his eyes turned into tenderness and love. A kiss as soft as a feather fell on Bailey Hongzhuang's forehead. Dibei Chen's eyes shined. "Wifey, luckily you're all right." Dibei Chen's low and serious voice was filled with joy and happiness, as if he had completely let go of the pressure he had been suppressing for a long time. Dibei Chen's usual teasing appearance was replaced by thick seriousness. "Take good care of yourself. I'll be back too." Back. With a flash of white, Dibei Chen's figure disappeared from the room. Outside the room, his handsome and perfect face outlined a smile that could turn the world upside down. His wifey was shy. If he didn't leave, he was afraid that Bailey Hongzhuang would go berserk. More importantly, he was afraid that he wouldn't be able to control himself. Bailey Hongzhuang's originally furious heart dissipated a bit after hearing Dibei Chen's last two sentences. He was worried that something would happen to her during the demonic beast tide, so he came to the Azure Water School. With Dibei Chen's current situation, he was afraid that he was already very busy in the sect. Just because of her, he left everything behind and came here. She clearly saw the joy in Dibei Chen's eyes. Her heart trembled a little. Quickly tidying up her clothes, Bailey Hongzhuang's face returned to calmness. But her heart was not calm. Chapter 280. But Xiao Hei's white fluffy hair was like two blushes, bright red and eye-catching. "We didn't see anything. We didn't see anything." "What did you see?" Bailey Hongzhuang face-bombed. "Shame, shame." Xiao Hei shyly covered her little face and ran around the table. "I don't know. I didn't see anything." "Do I believe it?" Bailey Hongzhuang was helpless. While Xiao Hei and Xiao Bai were shy, Baisher had already fallen asleep, although his eyelids were still trembling. It seemed that she couldn't bathe in a house like this in the future. "Knock, knock, knock." There was a quick knock on the door, and Bailey Hongzhuang frowned. Did this guy not leave yet? Opening the door, Bailey Hongzhuang found that it wasn't Dibei Chen standing outside the door, but Xia Jiqing. "Hongzhuang, it's great that you're okay." Xia Jiqing's pretty face was full of excitement, and she opened her arms and gave Bailey Hongzhuang a bear hug. "When I heard the news of the monster tide, I was really scared to death." Looking at the worry and sigh in Xia Jiqing's eyes, Bailey Hongzhuang felt a trace of warmth in her heart. Although the trip to the Luo Yun mountain range was dangerous, she was very happy to see her friends so worried about her. "I'm lucky. How could I die so easily?" Bailey Hongzhuang's mouth raised a bright smile. "When I heard the news of your safe return, I immediately rushed over. Seeing that you're okay, I'm relieved. Did I disturb your rest?" Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head slightly. "I've already rested well." Under the power of the medicine, every cell in her body was relaxed and strengthened. At this moment, her whole body was indescribably comfortable. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang speak so calmly and seriously, Xia Jiqing's pretty face blossomed into a bright smile. "What is this demonic beast tide all about?" The two sat on the edge of the bed, and Xia Jiqing asked about Bailey Hongzhuang's experience in the Luo Yun Mountains. After Bailey Hongzhuang described the horror of the monster tide, Xia Jiqing was even more frightened. Fortunately, her strength was not enough to go to the Luo Yun mountain range. Otherwise, she would have already lost her life. Bai Junyu hasn't returned yet. Xia Jiqing's eyes were filled with worry. Although she didn't have a good impression of Bai Junyu, he was still a friend. Naturally, she couldn't help but worry. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes darkened. Due to the demonic beast frenzy, many cultivators had died. If the White Lion had not shown its power at the crucial moment, she did not know what would have happened to her. He could only hope that Bai Junyu and the others would be able to return safely. Bai Junyu and the others are not weak. They should be able to return safely. I hope so. Xia Jiqing sighed faintly. The world is unpredictable. Recently, the atmosphere of the entire college has been very depressing, especially when we received news that a student had fallen. Bailey Hongzhuang's dark phoenix eyes were heavy. She also understood that these days, the cultivators of the college were not feeling good. After the two talked for a while, Xia Jiqing did not leave, and the two went to rest. The next day, Bailey Hongzhuang heard the sound of footsteps coming from the corridor, vaguely mixed with anxious discussions. Bailey Hongzhuang and Xia Jiqing looked at each other, their eyes filled with doubts. The two immediately tidied up and opened the door. They saw Bai Junyu's door open and Dongfang Yu and the others gathered inside. Chapter 281. Bai Junyu is back. Her clear and bright eyes were filled with concern. If not, everyone would not have gathered in this room. Dongfang Yu nodded slightly. Cui Haoyan and Bai Junyu were seriously injured. Zhang Yunfeng is slightly better, and the other person has fallen. Bailey Hongzhuang's phoenix eyes narrowed. This result was much better than what they had expected, but when she heard that one person had fallen, her heart could not help but jump. Bai Junyu and Cui Haoyan's injuries are very serious. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned. Their dormitory was not small, but at this moment the teachers and students were all gathered here, so they could not see the situation inside. It's very serious, especially Cui Haoyan. The vice principal is already treating them. I hope they will be fine. Her clear eyes flashed with a touch of light. The vice principal was a fourth-grade alchemist. So far, she had never seen the vice principal's face. Bailey Hongzhuang said to Xia Jiqing and slowly walked into the room. She also wanted to see Cui Haoyan and Bai Junyu's injuries. Maybe she could help. Gong Xiaoqing and the others saw Bailey Hongzhuang and nodded slightly, but did not speak. At this moment, the vice principal was diagnosing Cui Haoyan's injuries, and they were afraid to disturb him. When Bailey Hongzhuang saw the appearance of Cui Haoyan and Bai Junyu, her eyes could not help but narrow, and her face was filled with shock. Bai Junyu's face was pale, his clothes were ragged, and his exposed skin was covered with scars. Almost no inch of his body was intact. Dark red blood stains stained his clothes, revealing a tragic atmosphere. A large piece of flesh on his right shoulder was gone, and from the jagged scars, it could be seen that he had been bitten by a monster beast. With such serious injuries, it was a miracle that Bai Junyu could still live until now. However, Bai Junyu's injuries were not the most serious. Cui Haoyan's injuries were the most serious. Cui Haoyan's face was black and blue, and the skin on his chest was festering inch by inch, apparently eroded by the poison. At this moment, the poison had already invaded his entire body. Large areas of festering skin were a ghastly sight. Even the blood that flowed out had turned black. Vice Principal, can they still be saved? Gong Xiaoqing frowned, his voice filled with nervousness and worry. Huan Qiu's weathered eyes were heavy. As long as Bai Junyu survives this stage, he will be able to survive. Cui Haoyan, even I am unable to identify the poison in his body. I can only feed him the antidote pill and do some research. I just don't know if this child will be able to last until then. As soon as he said that, everyone's hearts sank. Zhang Yunfeng couldn't help but cry. It's all because of me. Cui Haoyan was attacked by the poisonous python because he wanted to save me. Zhang Yunfeng's tears fell like pearls from a broken necklace. It's my fault. Lu Qinghue patted Zhang Yunfeng's shoulder. Yunfeng, no one wanted this to happen. Don't blame yourself. However, Zhang Yunfeng still stubbornly believed. It's all because of me. I would rather the person lying there right now was me. Qinghue, feed Bai Junyu the recovery pill in my medicine box. The vice principal said. Yes, master. Lu Qinghue skillfully opened the medicine box and took out a white porcelain bottle from the many white porcelain bottles. She took out the recovery pill and fed it to Bai Junyu. Chapter 282. No wonder Lu Qinghue was already a level 2 alchemist at such a young age. She had a level 4 alchemist as her master. Azure Water School's special enrollment, level 2 alchemist, and the vice principal's disciple. With all these identities added together, it was no wonder Lu Qinghue's reputation was so high. She was the goddess in everyone's heart. Huan Qiu's gaze fell on Zhang Yunfeng. You said Cui Haoyan was attacked by a poisonous python? What did the python look like? He didn't know what demonic beast this poison came from. As long as he knew, he would be able to use the right medicine. After all, the antidote pill wasn't omnipotent. A targeted pill would be more effective. That poisonous python was about 20 meters long and as thick as a basin. Its entire body was covered in green scales. Zhang Yunfeng quickly explained. Lulin python. Huan Qiu's eyes narrowed. He didn't expect it to be a Lulin python. Bailey Hongzhuang also immediately understood what demonic beast Zhang Yunfeng was talking about. Lulin python was extremely strong and had a strong poison. Lulin python lived in Luo Yun mountain range. Normally, they wouldn't have come into contact with Lulin python. Only during this demonic beast tide did Chui Haoyin's group encounter it. Lulin python's poison was strong and tyrannical. Normal methods couldn't cure it. Huan Chuyu faintly sighed. His old and benevolent face was filled with helplessness and regret. Although he was a level 4 alchemist, the pill recipes he had were limited. In ancient times, alchemy flourished. All kinds of pill recipes were endless. It wasn't impossible to come into contact with Lulin python's poison. But now, the pill formulas that could treat it had already disappeared. Even he was helpless. Seeing Huan Chuyu like this, everyone was shocked. Zhang Yunfeng didn't even bother to wipe away the tears in her eyes. She was extremely nervous. Vice Principal, can Chui Haoyin be saved? I can only try my best. But the possibility isn't high. Zhang Yunfeng's face paled. Even the Vice Principal, a level 4 alchemist, said the possibility wasn't high. Didn't that mean, thinking of this, Zhang Yunfeng's tears flowed even more. Vice Principal, is there any other way? Gong Xiaoqing asked in a deep voice. Unless we find a 5th-grade alchemist, or find a doctor who knows the vibrating needle technique. Hearing this method, everyone's hearts sank again. As everyone knew, the current strongest alchemist was the Vice Principal. Where could they find a 5th-grade alchemist? As for doctors who had mastered the vibrating needle technique, even doctors who knew acupuncture and moxibustion were almost extinct, let alone the vibrating needle technique. Neither of these two methods worked, so there was no other way. Then what should we do? Boo-hoo. Zhang Yunfeng was sobbing uncontrollably. Her entire body was covered in tears. Xia Jiqing looked at Zhang Yunfeng curiously. Does this Zhang Yunfeng like Chui Haoyin? Dong Fengyu nodded slightly, his expression helpless and regretful. Zhang Yunfeng has always loved Chui Haoyin, but she rarely shows it. Now, I'm afraid there's no hope for her to confess. Xia Jiqing was stunned. She was just a little suspicious, but she didn't expect it to be true. It's really pitiful. The Luo Yin mountain range is full of dangers. It really makes people sigh. Just when everyone was in despair, Bailey Hongzhuang slowly walked in front of Chui Haoyin. Huan Chiyou's calm and leisurely eyes flashed with a trace of surprise. He didn't know why this little girl stood up now. Chapter 283. Her delicate and beautiful face was filled with confidence and certainty. Although her current strength wasn't worthy of praise, she had absolute confidence in her medical skills. She wasn't familiar with Chui Haoyin, and even Chui Haoyin looked down on her, but it wasn't out of malice. Since everyone was in the same class, and Chui Haoyin was Dong Fengyu's good friend, she couldn't just sit by and watch. Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, everyone's gaze gathered on her body. The room instantly quieted down to the point where you could hear a pin drop. If the vice principal wasn't here, they really wanted to ask Bailey Hongzhuang what kind of joke was this? Gong Xiaoqing, Lu Qinyue, Dong Fengyu, and Xia Jiqing all looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in astonishment, doubting what they had just heard. With their understanding of Bailey Hongzhuang, she wasn't someone who spoke without thinking. But for them to believe that Bailey Hongzhuang had a way to detoxify the poison, this was really hard to believe. Huan Chuyu curiously sized up the little girl in front of him. Just by standing there without speaking, this little girl emitted a kind of light, making people unable to ignore her. At this moment, in front of him, she said such unbelievable words, yet she was still calm and composed. That confident and certain appearance made her little face dazzle, showing that she was full of confidence. You have a way to detoxify, Chui Haoyin. Huan Chiyou's eyes were filled with kindness and wisdom. He felt that the little girl in front of him wasn't speaking without thinking. Everyone saw that Huan Chiyou's attitude towards Bailey Hongzhuang was so good, and their eyes were filled with jealousy. In the academy, if one was able to obtain the recognition of the vice principal or the vice principal, it was like reaching the heavens in a single bound. This Bailey Hongzhuang is really daring to attract the vice principal's attention. What's the use of attracting his attention now? If she can't detoxify Chui Haoyin's poison, isn't that the same as slapping herself in the face? Zhang Yunfeng's eyes flashed with confusion. Bailey Hongzhuang. Now is the time when Chui Haoyin's life is at stake. This isn't the time for you to play tricks. Chui Haoyin's injury was so serious that he couldn't hold on much longer. Bailey Hongzhuang still wanted to delay the vice principal's time to think of a solution. It was too hateful. In Zhang Yunfeng's heart, she did not believe that such a young Bailey Hongzhuang could cure Chui Haoyin. A fifth-grade alchemist? Bailey Hongzhuang was impossible. Vibrating needle technique? Bailey Hongzhuang was even more impossible. Since it wasn't any of them, wasn't Bailey Hongzhuang just trying to please the crowd? Bailey Hongzhuang indifferently glanced at Zhang Yunfeng and ignored her. Instead, she looked at Huan Chuyu. I have an idea. Then give it a try. Huan Chuyu's voice was filled with benevolence. He was truly curious as to what kind of trump card this lass in front of him had to be able to make her so confident. Could it be that she had a fifth-level medicinal pill in her possession? This was the possibility that Huan Chuyu felt was the most likely. Vice Principal. Zhang Yunfeng wanted to stop him. She really didn't understand what the vice principal was thinking. Forget about Bailey Hongzhuang causing trouble. The vice principal actually agreed to it? Huan Chuyu raised his right hand slightly and stopped Zhang Yunfeng's words. Lu Qinyue's gentle eyes were filled with doubt and astonishment. Lu Qinyue silently cursed. What happened to Master? Bailey Hongzhuang walked to Chui Haoyin's side and carefully observed Chui Haoyin's injury. She threw away all distracting thoughts and became abnormally serious. Chui Haoyin had been injured for quite some time and had been relying on medicinal pills to keep his life. Now, the poison had already covered half of his body. If the poison wasn't detoxified today, he would completely lose his life. Chapter 284. Ling Jiasen's mouth was full of ridicule. This Bailey Hongzhuang's acting is quite good. I want to see how she's going to continue acting. Everyone was silent. Chui Haoyin's injury was obviously something that could only be cured by a master. Bailey Hongzhuang was too far away, making them unable to believe it. After a moment, Bailey Hongzhuang released the hand that was taking Chui Haoyin's pulse. She took out a needle bag from her chinquin bag and spread it out beside the bed. Silver needles of different lengths and thicknesses appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Everyone's face was filled with astonishment. They never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would really have a needle bag on her. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at Ling Jiasen indifferently. She didn't know this woman, but from the moment she appeared, this woman's eyes were filled with disgust and hostility. Feeling Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze, Ling Jiasen was startled. Only when Bailey Hongzhuang shifted her gaze did she regain her senses. She thought in her heart, Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze is so sharp, as if she could see through my heart in an instant. The astonishment only lasted for a moment before Ling Jiasen's eyes once again filled with disgust. She had already heard from Lu Jingquan that Bailey Hongzhuang dared to kill Yunyang's biological sister. She was really hateful. Girl, you know the art of acupuncture? Huan Chuyu's deep eyes revealed a trace of astonishment. This was the only explanation for Bailey Hongzhuang carrying a needle bag on her. According to what he knew, there were very few people who knew the art of acupuncture. Moreover, Bailey Hongzhuang was still so young. No matter if it was medicine or alchemy, it required 10 years of practice. Without a rich foundation and understanding of medicine, it was impossible to master it through a comprehensive study. Bailey Hongzhuang was so young, he was afraid that she wouldn't be able to master much. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly in response to Huan Chuyu's words. The poison in Chui Haoyin's body is very strong and overbearing. Just relying on acupuncture alone is still lacking. Huan Chuyu's gaze landed on Bailey Hongzhuang. His words contained a hint of warning. Vice Principal, don't worry, I know what I'm doing. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was indifferent. Huan Chuyu's words didn't make her nervous at all. She had come into contact with this Lulan python before and had even extracted its poison. Now that she had the antidote, there was no problem at all. Ling Jiaxin's eyes were full of contempt. She didn't expect this Bailey Hongzhuang to be so arrogant. She even dared to be so arrogant in front of the vice principal. Bailey Hongzhuang, are you going to tell us that you know the vibrating needle technique? Ling Jiaxin's lips curved into a mocking smile. Do you think all of us are fools? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows slightly. Her eyes were as sharp as carvings as she looked straight at Ling Jiaxin. Although he didn't know why this guy hated him, since he hated him, he was his enemy. Don't flatter yourself. There are so many people here, but you're the only fool who is blindly shouting. Her cold and indifferent words revealed a bone-deep disdain and impatience. It was as if talking to Ling Jiaxin was a waste of time. PFFF. Dongfang, you couldn't help but laugh. The others also couldn't help but laugh as the corners of their mouths twitched. When they heard Bailey Hongzhuang say, don't flatter yourself, they didn't understand. It was fine if Ling Jiaxin was a fool, but she also wanted to call them fools as well. Chapter 285. Ling Jiaxin's face changed. She didn't think that Bailey Hongzhuang would dare to curse her so straightforwardly. She didn't have any scruples in front of the vice principal. Don't go too far. Ling Jiaxin's face was sullen. The people present all had a high status in the school. She couldn't lose face in front of so many people. Cui Haoyan is your senior, a precious life. You treat Cui Haoyan's life so casually for your own selfish desires. Are you still human? Ling Jiaxin wasn't stupid. Bailey Hongzhuang's words just now separated her from the crowd. Now that she said this, at least Zhang Yunfeng would be on the same side as her. Sure enough, Zhang Yunfeng's body trembled slightly. Her eyes were also filled with anger. My own selfish desires? Her black phoenix eyes flashed with disgust. What kind of selfish desires do I have? I don't know. Aren't you just trying to perform well in front of the vice principal? That's why you're playing to the gallery. I've already seen through this kind of cheap trick. Ling Jiaxin's face showed a proud expression. Just as she was about to raise her chin, she noticed Huan Chuyu on the side. She quickly put on an elegant and wise appearance. It's fine if you're stupid, but you don't know your own limits. It's really worrying. Bailey Hongzhuang pretended to shake her head in pity. Her words were full of ridicule. What do you mean? Ling Jiaxin was stunned. Her brain couldn't wrap itself around it. At this moment, it was clear that Bailey Hongzhuang was at a disadvantage. How could she still look at her so proudly? No matter what she thought, there was no problem with what she said. With the vice principal's wisdom, if I'm just deliberately mystifying things, how could he not be able to tell? Her delicate and beautiful face was full of ridicule. You may do this kind of thing to humiliate yourself, but I won't. With a condescending tone and a decisive tone, Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was cold and indifferent. The words she said were the truth, making it impossible for people to refute. Ling Jiaxin's face changed slightly. She opened her mouth to refute all of this, but in the end, she couldn't say anything. This was because Bailey Hongzhuang's words were clear and logical. Even she herself felt that Bailey Hongzhuang was telling the truth. The expressions of Gong Shaoqing and the rest changed a little. They were indeed doubting whether Bailey Hongzhuang had that kind of strength, but Bailey Hongzhuang's explanation also clearly told them that if she wasn't confident, she wouldn't have done it. Ling Jiaxin couldn't refute. Bailey Hongzhuang's words made her unable to refute. If she said that Bailey Hongzhuang was wrong, it would be tantamount to saying that the vice principal was not wise enough. Thinking of this, Ling Jiaxin could only bitterly wait for Bailey Hongzhuang. She did not expect Bailey Hongzhuang to be so eloquent. Huan Chuyu looked at the tit-for-tat between the two and didn't say anything. As the vice principal, he had seen many students. Bailey Hongzhuang looked very confident. In this world, there were some geniuses that couldn't be measured by common sense. At a young age, they had reached a height that others could not reach. Maybe this girl in front of him was one of them. Zhang Yunfeng, who was originally complaining, also didn't say anything. Even the vice principal didn't say anything. This was already a kind of explanation. Bailey Hongzhuang took out a silver needle from the needle bag and accurately pierced it into Chui Haoyin's acupuncture point. Chapter 286. If Xiao Zifen and the others were here, they would definitely not be worried. Bailey Hongzhuang's name had spread throughout the imperial city. There was no need to mention her high medical skills. One by one, the silver needles were inserted into Gong Xiaoqing's body. When Bailey Hongzhuang treated him so seriously, a great demeanor arose spontaneously. All the actions were done in one go, as if she was a doctor. When Bailey Hongzhuang inserted the first needle, Huan Chuyo's eyes flashed. This girl's medical skills were really not simple. He had seen a doctor who had mastered acupuncture. The doctor had introduced to him several characteristics of acupuncture. Fast, steady, accurate, hands without a trace of trembling, the patient would not show the slightest bit of discomfort. Bailey Hongzhuang had obviously done it. Although he did not have a good understanding of medicine, he could roughly judge that there was no problem with the acupuncture points that Bailey Hongzhuang was treating. Not long after, Chui Haoyin's body was covered with numerous silver needles. At first glance, it made people's scalps tingle. In the next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang's right hand slightly flicked the silver needles. As if performing magic, all the silver needles began to vibrate rhythmically. Lu Qingyue's calm eyes were filled with astonishment. Vibrating needle technique. She had never seen the real vibrating needle technique, but she had heard her master talk about the characteristics of the vibrating needle technique. Therefore, when she saw it, she immediately recognized it. Lu Qingyue's words undoubtedly set off stormy waves in everyone's heart. Vibrating needle technique. It really was the vibrating needle technique. Not to mention that the vibrating needle technique had been lost for a long time. Which doctor who could master acupuncture wasn't old? Bailey Hongzhuang was only 15 years old, but she had mastered the top-level vibrating needle technique. How is this possible? Everyone's mouth couldn't help but twitch. Bailey Hongzhuang was the real abnormal. Xia Jiqing's eyes widened. Her face was filled with shock and joy. Hongzhuang is simply a god. I admire her so much. Bailey Hongzhuang had mastered the vibrating needle technique. Did it mean that Bailey Hongzhuang had cured the disease that even the vice president was helpless against? Dongfang Yu's handsome and sunny face was full of astonishment and amazement. Ever since he met Bailey Hongzhuang, he felt that Bailey Hongzhuang was very different. He didn't expect her to be so powerful. Zhang Yunfeng's face was full of surprise. Looking at the serious figure, a trace of guilt emerged in her heart. It turned out that Bailey Hongzhuang really wanted to save Chui Haoyin out of kindness. She was really ashamed of her attitude. Ling Jiasen's mouth seemed to be stuffed with an egg. She had such an expression from the moment she saw Bailey Hongzhuang perform acupuncture. Originally, she wanted to wait for an opportunity to ridicule Bailey Hongzhuang and let Bailey Hongzhuang understand the consequences of overestimating herself. But now, she had a bad premonition. Huan Chuyo's eyes flashed. It seemed that he didn't see wrongly. Bailey Hongzhuang really was a talented person. The long-lost vibrating needle technique actually appeared in the hands of teenage girl. It seemed that Bailey Hongzhuang's master was definitely a terrifying doctor. He didn't know that there was such a genius doctor in the school. The Azure Water School was really full of crouching tigers and hidden dragons. Everyone held their breaths. No one dared to make a sound to disturb Bailey Hongzhuang, fearing that they would affect her treatment. With the trembling of the silver needle, everyone could clearly see that the black color on Chui Haoyin's body was quickly gathering towards his left wrist. Chapter 287. Seeing this scene, Huan Chuyo's deep eyes flashed with a trace of light. Bailey Hongzhuang really cured the poison. The Lulin python's poison was terrifying because it entered every part of the body. It was extremely difficult to expel it. Bailey Hongzhuang used the vibrating needle technique to extract all the poison from the body and gather it in one place. This way, the biggest problem was solved. Chui Haoyin's life was saved. At this moment, Bailey Hongzhuang tilted her head and looked at Huan Chuyu. Vice Principal, do you have any blood-replenishing pills? Chui Haoyin was already extremely weak. The amount of poisonous blood was not small. Once it was expelled, Chui Haoyin would lose too much blood and fall into another predicament. Yes, leave this to me. Huan Chio's expression was serious. This time, many of the injured cultivators lost too much blood, so he refined many blood-replenishing pills. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. The silver needles vibrated faster and faster. The poison on Chui Haoyin's left hand also became darker and darker. It was like an earthworm wriggling continuously, causing one's heart to turn cold. The moment all the silver needles stopped vibrating, Bailey Hongzhuang took out a sharp blade and cut open a wound on Chui Haoyin's wrist. The black poisonous blood continuously flowed out from his wrist. Chui Haoyin's body also twitched slightly. The poisonous blood left in the metal basin and let out a sizzling sound. However, before the poisonous blood completely flowed out, the metal basin had already been corroded by the poison. Seeing this scene, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. They all knew that the poison in Chui Haoyin's body was extremely strong and tyrannical. However, they didn't expect the poison to reach such a degree. No wonder Chui Haoyin's body was filled with rotting wounds. After the poisonous blood flowed to the ground, it started to corrode the ground. White bubbles continuously appeared, causing a chill to run down everyone's spine. As the poisonous blood flowed out, the purplish-black color on Chui Haoyin's face gradually disappeared. What replaced it was a pale white. The moment the poisonous blood was expelled, Huan Chuyu directly placed 2 blood-replenishing pills into Chui Haoyin's mouth. Bailey Hongzhuang started to bandage the wound on Chui Haoyin's wrist. Her skillful technique was meticulous and serious. It's done. Bailey Hongzhuang stood up and looked at Huan Chuyu. The poison has been expelled. I'll leave the rest to you. Chui Haoyin's injuries were very serious. What she could do was to detoxify him, but if she wanted him to recover at the fastest speed, she would need the best medicinal pills. Although she could completely cure him, it would take a longer time. Huan Chuyu, Bailey Hongzhuang's, you must be tired. Have a good rest. Only then did everyone notice that Bailey Hongzhuang's forehead was covered in sweat, and her delicate and beautiful face was also a little pale. Obviously, this treatment was not as simple as they thought. Bailey Hongzhuang's burden was not small. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved into a bright smile. Many thanks for the vice principal's concern. Huan Chio's eyes were filled with praise and admiration. This girl would definitely be extraordinary in the future. To achieve such results at such a young age, no matter how strong her master was, it would be useless if she didn't work hard enough. He didn't think that Bailey Hongzhuang's actions were to attract his attention. He believed that Bailey Hongzhuang's master was definitely not weaker than him. Chapter 288. At this time, a slight groan attracted everyone's attention. It turned out that the unconscious Chui Haoyin had opened his eyes. Although his face was full of illness, it was undoubtedly much better than before. Chui Haoyin looked at the familiar people in front of him, and the corners of his mouth pulled into a happy smile. He didn't lose his life in the Luo Yun mountain range and returned to the Azure Water School. Zhang Yunfeng immediately rushed to Chui Haoyin's side. How are you? Chui Haoyin shook his head slightly. I'm fine. Now he only felt a burst of weakness. Compared to the previous pain, it was much better, much better. Zhang Yunfeng's tears couldn't help but flow. The depths of her eyes were overflowing with joy. Chui Haoyin's life was finally saved. Chui Haoyin frowned and looked at Zhang Yunfeng with pity. I didn't die. Why are you crying? Ooh, almost. Zhang Yunfeng, who was previously tense, completely collapsed at this moment, sobbing silently. Just a little bit more, and she would never see Chui Haoyin again. The originally solemn atmosphere relaxed at this moment. Chui Haoyin and Bai Junyu's lives were not in danger. This was already a blessing in disguise. Bailey Hongzhuang walked back to Xia Jiqing's side. Xia Jiqing excitedly pulled her hand. Hongzhuang, you're too awesome. The lost acupuncture technique, you actually know it. A faint smile appeared on her beautiful face. Even 1,000 years ago, their Bailey family's acupuncture technique was the best in the continent. It was a pity that she would never be able to see those old fellows who had doted on her back then. The layer of paper between Chui Haoyin and Zhang Yunfeng has been broken. Bailey Hongzhuang's clear eyes flashed with a warm smile. The lovers finally got married. It was always something that everyone was happy to see. Dong Fangyu looked at Bailey Hongzhuang's white, jade-like, beautiful face, his eyes becoming more and more gentle. This is all thanks to you. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her lips and smiled. The rest of the matter had nothing to do with her. After saying goodbye to Dong Fangyu, she returned to her room. Xia Jiqing also didn't stay for long. She still needed to go to class. After all, the ordinary class wasn't as free as the special enrollment class. Inside the house, Bailey Hongzhuang began to cultivate using the demon summoning scripture. After the thrilling escape from the falling Cloud Mountain range, her cultivation had improved by quite a bit. In the end, the cultivation speed of a peaceful life could not be compared to the cultivation speed of experience. Only when faced with danger could one's ability be completely stimulated, and one's cultivation could also be improved. She had made the right choice on this trip to the academy. The next day, Bailey Hongzhuang left the school and went to the market of Songlan City. In the market square, most of the things that cultivators needed could be bought here. Therefore, this was the place where the cultivators of the Azure Water School often gathered. Bailey Hongzhuang hugged Baishir. This little guy's appetite was really embarrassing. This time, she did not hunt many demon crystals in the Luo Yun mountain range, and White Lion's dry rations had been used up. Yesterday, this guy had been acting all coquettishly, rolling around and acting cute, so she could only come to the market to buy demon crystals. However, this little guy's ability was extraordinary, so it was worth it to invest in him. Just as she entered the market square, Bailey Hongzhuang's ears were shrouded in a hubbub. All kinds of hawking and bargaining were endless. Everywhere she looked, it was an extremely lively scene. Chapter 289. Bailey Hongzhuang didn't need anything else. She only came for the demon crystals and a large amount of demon crystals. In the market, there weren't many people selling demon crystals. Many people directly handed the demon crystals to the mercenary union. After all, besides the alchemists, the students of the Azure Water School didn't have much use for demon crystals. Bailey Hongzhuang walked in the market. After searching for a long time, she didn't see anyone selling demon crystals. Even if she did, it was only 1 or 2 low-level demon crystals. Suddenly, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes fell on a stall. Colorful demon crystals were casually placed on the stall, and the seller was lazily sitting on a chair at the back, taking a nap. Baishir's eyes widened when he saw the demon crystals. His eyes were full of covetousness. His hands were constantly digging, and he hated that he couldn't sleep on a piece of demon crystal. Bailey Hongzhuang touched Baishir's little head. She couldn't let this little guy eat in the market. Be obedient, Bailey Hongzhuang said. Baishir, who couldn't wait to rush over, quietly lay in Bailey Hongzhuang's arms after hearing her words. Only a pair of big watery eyes were still looking longingly at the pile of colorful demon crystals. Bailey Hongzhuang stopped in front of the stall. The seller was a big man about 40 years old. His face was full of stubble, and his hair was fluffy and messy. He looked unrestrained. On the stall, in addition to the demon crystals, there were some other objects, but they were all strange, and it was difficult to distinguish what they were. This was the strangest stall Bailey Hongzhuang had seen so far. The other stalls sold weapons and the like, but this stall was too casual. "Uncle, how much are these demon crystals?" Bailey Hongzhuang asked. The seller, who was resting slowly, opened his eyes. He lazily looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and said, "Not selling." When the words came out, even Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but be stunned. If he wasn't selling, why would this person put these things on the stall? "Oh, you're here too. It's really a coincidence." Without waiting for Bailey Hongzhuang to ask why these demon crystals were not for sale, a sharp female voice sounded behind her. Bailey Hongzhuang turned around. Sure enough, she saw Ling Jiesin standing behind her. Ling Jiesin was wearing a light yellow gauze dress. Her black hair was combed into the most popular bun. Her pretty face could be considered to be above average, but the arrogance and harshness in between her eyebrows destroyed some of her prettiness. Yesterday, she knew that Ling Jiesin's hostility towards her, but she didn't know the reason. There was no need for her to spend so much effort on such a big-breasted, brainless woman. I didn't want to meet you. Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was lazy, her clear eyes faintly showing a bit of impatience. Ling Jiesin stared blankly for a moment before smiling speechlessly. She really couldn't believe that Bailey Hongzhuang wouldn't give her any face. Bailey Hongzhuang, do you know who I am? Ling Jiesin's face became fierce. Her slightly raised chin revealed pride and deterrence. She wanted to let Bailey Hongzhuang know how powerful she was. However, Bailey Hongzhuang didn't care. If you want to say, I can reluctantly listen. Bailey Hongzhuang looked indifferent. She really didn't have the slightest impression of Ling Jiesin's name. It's you who killed Yunyang's sister, Ji-Man. Ling Jiesin's eyes flashed a ruthless light. She and Ji-Man knew each other. She didn't expect that Ji-Man just went home and left forever. Chapter 290. Bailey Hongzhuang's phoenix eyes, as deep as an ancient well, were filled with understanding and ridicule. Only then did she understand. So Ling Jiesin was also one of Dai Yunyang's people. No wonder she showed such deep hostility when she saw her. She had been at the school for half a month, but she had never seen Dai Yunyang himself. His lackeys came one after another. This Dai Yunyang is really like a ghost that won't go away. Xiao Hei's face was full of disgust. If he has the ability, then he should go and find some useless guys. Maybe Dai Yunyang likes the feeling of being ordered around. Xiao Bai rubbed her chin and thought. Listening to the conversation between Xiao Hei and Xiao Bai, Bailey Hongzhuang's mouth showed a trace of a smile. So, it's another one of Dai Yunyang's dogs. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were sharp and her voice was full of sarcasm. If Dai Yunyang wants to find trouble, then let him come. I don't have the time to deal with cats and dogs. Bailey Hongzhuang was not polite. Dai Jimon found trouble with her, and now Dai Yunyang came to find trouble with her. It seems that she and the Dai family really did not get along well. But, always finding trash like Lu Jingkun to provoke her, she had already lost her patience. Dog? Ling Jiesin's voice became more and more sharp. She looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with hatred. This woman dared to call her a dog? Bailey Hongzhuang, I am Yunyang's woman. Ling Jiesin's voice was loud and clear. Her hysterical appearance attracted the attention of many practitioners in the market. Everyone looked over curiously. It seemed like there was going to be some excitement in the market. Ling Jiesin was on the verge of collapse. She wasn't one of those lackeys that follow behind Yunyang, but Yunyang's woman. It was because of this identity that almost no one in the school dared to offend her. Even the specially recruited students would give her some face when they saw her. This Bailey Hongzhuang was actually so arrogant. Oh, Bailey Hongzhuang's lips slightly hooked. Her eyes were full of surprise and doubt. You are Dai Yunyang's woman? Why haven't I heard that Dai Yunyang is married? As soon as these words came out, Ling Jiesin's arrogant face was covered with a layer of frost, faintly revealing a bit of embarrassment. This was the most painful part of her heart. Although she was willing to be Dai Yunyang's woman, and there was no one in the academy who didn't know of this identity, Dai Yunyang had never brought her home, so she was still not in the right place. With Dai Yunyang's status and reputation in the academy, who would dare to say anything to his face? However, this Bailey Hongzhuang actually dared to mention this matter in front of so many people. How hateful. We'll get married soon. Ling Jiesin forced herself to maintain her expression, her voice mixed with unspeakable anger. Oh, I see. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. Then, I'll congratulate you first. It was clearly a congratulatory sentence, but when it fell into Ling Jiesin's ears, it was full of sarcasm. She clearly knew that Dai Yunyang had never brought her home because he did not have any thoughts of marriage. Even so, she was still willing to be Yunyang's woman. There was no lack of students from the Azure Water School in the crowd. Seeing Ling Jiesin and Bailey Hongzhuang in conflict, their faces were dyed with interest. Whether it was Bailey Hongzhuang or Ling Jiesin, both were very famous in the Azure Water School. No one would have thought that the two would clash today. Bailey Hongzhuang killed Dai Jimon? Is this true or false? According to what they said, It should be Bailey Hongzhuang who killed Dai Jimon before entering the school. I was wondering why Dai Jimon didn't enter the school this year. Chapter 291. Everyone was shocked. As a cultivator, killing people was not a strange thing. What they were surprised about was that Bailey Hongzhuang was able to kill Dai Jimon with her strength at that time. I heard that when Teacher Liu and Teacher Fu invited Bailey Hongzhuang to the school, Bailey Hongzhuang refused. A man revealed the inside story. This matter was known by everyone in the Fengbo country, and now it was vaguely known by some students. What the F***CK? Is this for real? So arrogant. Everyone's faces were bewildered, their eyes full of doubt. Azure Water School's invitation letter was something countless cultivators yearned for even in their dreams. Yet Bailey Hongzhuang actually refused? Of course it's true. Why would I lie to you about these things? The man looked calm. In fact, when he first heard about this matter, his expression was even more exaggerated than everyone else's. Wow, I really didn't expect Bailey Hongzhuang to be so powerful. No wonder she was able to kill Dai Jimon. Bailey Hongzhuang was the first cultivator in history to refuse the invitation letter of the Azure Water School. For her to have this kind of confidence, she naturally had considerable strength. They knew that Teacher Liu and Teacher Fu were very good to Bailey Hongzhuang. Even after being refused, they still had this kind of attitude. It could be seen how much importance they attached to Bailey Hongzhuang. Ling Jessen's breath was stuck in her throat. Bailey Hongzhuang's gentle and sarcastic words made her unable to refute. If you want to buy things from this stall, unless you can come up with something that the stall owner is interested in, there is no need to talk about it. Ling Jessen's eyes lit up. Since she couldn't get back her face in other matters, then she would get back her face in this matter. This stall was famous in the Azure Water City market for being difficult to open. The stall owner obviously didn't lack money, so he was able to do business in this way until now. So far, the number of cultivators who had successfully exchanged things from this stall could be counted on one hand. It was because this stall was so strange that many students of the Azure Water School paid attention to it. They were even proud to be able to exchange things here. Usually, cultivators would come to try, but the results were always the same. The stall owner was not interested at all. Look at you. You won't be able to take out anything rare. Just give up. Ling Jessen's words were full of provocation. She wanted to use provocation to provoke Bailey Hongzhuang into talking big and then ruthlessly defeat her. Whether I give up or not is my business. If you have the time, why don't you think about how to make Dai Yunyang marry you as soon as possible? Ling Jessen's pitch-black eyes flashed with a wise and far-sighted light. Ling Jessen's method of provocation was so low-level. How could she not see through it? Ling Jessen's face stiffened. This Bailey Hongzhuang really touched a sore spot. Yo, no guts. Bailey Hongzhuang crossed her arms and looked up and down at Ling Jessen. Do you want to bet with me? What bet? If I fail, then I will give you 100,000 gold coins plus 50 monster crystals and vice versa. Do you dare? The lazy and mocking tone seemed to confirm that Ling Jessen didn't dare to bet. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her delicate chin and looked at Ling Jessen playfully. A sucker sent to her. It would be a waste not to slaughter her. She, Bailey Hongzhuang, didn't have the time to waste with Ling Jessen. Since she was looking for trouble, then she should pay some price. Chapter 292. 100,000 gold coins, 50 demon crystals. This was not a small number. Even for her, it was a huge number. When the crowd heard this bet, they all sucked in a breath of cold air. Either one of the two was a price that many cultivators could not afford. Bailey Hongzhuang actually used both as a bet. Just this confidence alone was enough to shock people. They knew how eccentric this stall owner's temper was. Ordinary things simply could not enter his eyes. In the end, was Bailey Hongzhuang really confident, or was she just trying to trick Ling Jessen? No matter which possibility it was, they were sure that Bailey Hongzhuang was a rich person. Ling Jessen stood in the same place. Her pretty face was filled with awkwardness and hesitation. She was the one who started it, and in front of so many cultivators, if she didn't answer, wouldn't it be too shameful? Ling Jessen's eyes stared at Bailey Hongzhuang's face, wanting to see some clues from the latter's face. However, Bailey Hongzhuang was always indifferent, the corner of her mouth rippling with a shallow smile. It was impossible to see her inner thoughts. Oh, no guts. The same sentence Bailey Hongzhuang gave to Ling Jiasin. It was even more ironic. Faint sneers could be heard from the crowd. It wasn't uncommon for cultivators to be slapped in the face due to dou qi. However, it was rare for someone to give someone a taste of their own medicine and give them a resounding slap in the blink of an eye. This Bailey Hongzhuang really has a personality. Ling Jiasin is really unlucky to find trouble with her. Haha, I did not expect this Bailey Hongzhuang to have such a personality. I heard that yesterday she detoxified the seriously injured Cui Haoyan. Even the vice principal was helpless against the poison. I also heard that Bailey Hongzhuang is not only talented in cultivation, but her medical skills are also very good. Special enrollment students had always been the focus of attention of the students of the Azure Water School. The news of Cui Haoyan and Bai Junyu's serious injuries spread throughout the school the moment they came back. The news of the detoxification naturally spread quickly. Everyone knew that the new beauty was actually a godly doctor. Listening to the harsh laughter around her, Ling Jiasin's eyes showed a trace of anger. It was very likely that Bailey Hongzhuang was deliberately scaring her. If she really agreed, the one who would be dumbfounded would be Bailey Hongzhuang. She would not be so stupid as to be fooled by Bailey Hongzhuang. Thinking of this, Ling Jiasin sneered. I'll bet 100,000 gold coins and 50 demon crystals. Once they fell into her hands, she would have a lot more cultivation resources. Wow, more and more cultivators came to watch the show. Even the stall owners who were not doing business in the market came over. This would be a good show to watch. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows and smiled seductively. It's a deal. Don't worry, we're here as witnesses. Among the crowd, a man's loud and clear voice reverberated. Then, everyone patted their chests. That's right, we're here as witnesses. Bailey Hongzhuang walked in front of the stall owner. The stall owner, who was originally resting, also opened his eyes under the attention of so many people. His eyes fell on Bailey Hongzhuang and Ling Jiasin. Stall owner, I don't know what you're interested in. Bailey Hongzhuang asked aloud. At least she had to know what the stall owner was interested in before she could think of what to exchange. Chapter 293. A glimmer of light flashed through her bright black phoenix eyes. The scope of interest wasn't small. It seemed that this stall owner's vision was extremely high. Ling Jiasin didn't say a word, only looking at Bailey Hongzhuang tauntingly. She wanted to see what Bailey Hongzhuang could take out that would interest the stall owner. Bailey Hongzhuang sized up the stall owner, suddenly noticing the bulging veins on his hand, like a roaring dragon, sinister and terrifying. Her lips curved into an enchanting and confident smile. She already had an idea. In the next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang directly took out a white porcelain bottle from her primal chaos ring and handed it to the stall owner. I believe you'll be interested in this. Her light and pleasant voice was filled with confidence and certainty. If she guessed correctly, what this stall owner lacked was the channel opening pill. Channel opening pill, a second-grade pill used to broaden the meridians. The wider the meridians, the more spirit energy that could flow through them, greatly increasing the strength of a cultivator. However, the meridians themselves weren't wide enough. Cultivators with conditions could use the channel opening pill to broaden their meridians, while those without conditions could only try to use their spirit energy to slowly widen their meridians. This process was extremely difficult, and one had to be careful. If one used too much force, they would end up like the stall owner. It was likely that the stall owner had already been unable to cultivate for a while. However, the strange thing was that since the stall owner had so many spirit stones, he shouldn't be a poor person. Why didn't he buy a second-grade channel opening pill? Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang so confident, a trace of doubt appeared in the stall owner's deep and cold eyes. Taking the white porcelain bottle, he opened it, and his face immediately stiffened. The stall owner's gaze was fixed on the pill. The strange veins and medicinal fragrance clearly told him that this was the channel opening pill. He wasn't an alchemist and didn't know anything about pills. The only pill he knew was a type of pill, the channel opening pill. At that time, he had been careless and damaged his meridians. He had gone through untold hardships to find an alchemist to treat him. The alchemist had told him that only the channel-opening pill could heal his injuries, but the recipe for the channel-opening pill had already been lost. He didn't believe it and searched everywhere, but found that what the pharmacist said was true. Unable to continue cultivating, his cultivation stagnated. Thus, he set up a stall, hoping that one day he would be able to find a channel-opening pill. After so many years, he had almost given up all hope, but the pill in front of him was clearly the channel-opening pill. Ling Jiasin and the others looked at the stall owner doubtfully. They saw that the stall owner's hand holding the white porcelain bottle was trembling, and his whole person was immersed in his own world. What exactly did Bailey Hongzhuang give a stall owner to make him reveal such an expression? Ling Jiasin frowned. At this moment, she had a bad premonition. The corners of Bailey Hongzhuang's mouth curled up slightly. Judging from the stall owner's expression, she was sure that her judgment was correct. After a long while, the stall owner's gaze finally landed on Bailey Hongzhuang. His eyes were bloodshot as he asked, "This is the channel-opening pill?" His reddened eyes were filled with repression and nervousness. His expression was firm and calm, but his trembling hands revealed his fear. He was afraid that Bailey Hongzhuang would once again destroy his hope. When Ling Jiasin heard the words channel-opening pill, she couldn't help but laugh. "Haha, stall owner, I think you're confused." Chapter 294. Even if she wasn't an alchemist, she knew that the recipe for the channel-opening pill had already disappeared in the annals of history. For the stall owner to say such groundless words, it was truly laughable. "Shut up," the stall owner roared. His eyes were red like an angry leopard, and he didn't give Ling Jiasin any chance to speak. Ling Jiasin was startled by the stall owner's roar. She didn't understand why he was so angry. However, the stall owner no longer paid attention to her. His gaze once again focused on Bailey Hongzhuang, wanting to know the final answer. "Correct." A voice as clear as the wind fell into the stall owner's ears like the sound of nature, causing him to be immersed in an unbelievable happiness. The stall owner looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, then looked at the perfectly round pill in the white porcelain bottle, his heart filled with indescribable excitement. 10 years. A whole 10 years. He hadn't cultivated for a whole 10 years, just to search for this impossible possibility. However, 10 years later, he had actually waited for it. The stall owner grabbed Bailey Hongzhuang's arm. "Is what you said true? This is really the channel-opening pill?" Her deep phoenix eyes flashed with doubt for a moment. Then she regained her understanding. 1,000 years ago, the channel-opening pill wasn't some rare pill. It was as common as the Peiyuan pill. From the stall owner's reaction, she deduced that the channel-opening pill had already been lost here. Otherwise, the stall owner wouldn't be so excited. A burst of pain came from her right hand, but Bailey Hongzhuang could understand the stall owner's excitement. At this moment, the strength in her hand suddenly disappeared and a figure appeared beside her, directly throwing the stall owner's hand away. Her phoenix eyes turned. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the black figure beside her in astonishment. Gong Shaoqing. Gong Shaoqing was still dressed in a black robe. His handsome and tall figure was as straight and proud as a pine tree. His cold face was like ice that would not melt for 1,000 years, but his deep black eyes flashed with displeasure. Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly surprised. She didn't think that Gong Shaoqing would appear here, and even more didn't think that he would do this. When everyone saw Gong Shaoqing appear, they all sighed in their hearts. The #1 student of the Azure Water School, his strength and talent were not just for show. Ling Jiasin glared at Bailey Hongzhuang. Gong Shaoqing was famous for being difficult to approach in the school, but now he actually stood up to help Bailey Hongzhuang. One had to know that Gong Shaoqing was famous for his coldness and cruelty. If they were not Gong Shaoqing's friends, even if they died in front of him, he would not blink. Bailey Hongzhuang had only been in the school for half a month, but Gong Shaoqing had already accepted her. "Why are you here?" Bailey Hongzhuang asked with a faint smile. Normally, she felt that this guy's cold face was very unpleasant, but today, she felt that it was not bad. "I just happened to pass by." His voice was as cold as ever. However, with Gong Xiaoqing's personality, it was already good enough that he was able to explain. Bailey Hongzhuang then turned her gaze towards the stall owner and said, "This really is the channel opening pill. If you don't believe me, you can appraise it." The stall owner looked deeply at Bailey Hongzhuang and said, "I believe you." These years, he had flipped through ancient books, and the channel opening pill recorded in them looked exactly like this. Moreover, Bailey Hongzhuang was an Azure Water School student. There was no need for her to lie to him. Even if she lied to him, he could still find her in the school. Her elegant and refined face outlined an elegant and perfect smile. "Then can we do this business?" Chapter 295. Once these words were spoken, everyone's jaws dropped. It can't be right. This stall had so many monster crystals and other things, yet it was all given to Bailey Hongzhuang, just like that. Bailey Hongzhuang was full of smiles. The stall owner's actions didn't surprise her. After all, the stall owner had been unable to cultivate for many years. In his heart, the value of the channel opening pill far exceeded anything else. Ling Jiasin was completely dumbfounded. Was Bailey Hongzhuang trying to trick him? Channel opening pill? That had disappeared for who knows how many years. How could Bailey Hongzhuang possibly have the channel opening pill? If you want to cheat, shouldn't you at least find a more convincing reason? Yet, the stall owner believed her. "Stall owner, this channel opening pill must be fake. Don't be fooled," Ling Jiasin hurriedly said. What a joke. It was fine if the stall owner was cheated, but what about her 100,000 gold coins and 50 monster crystals? The stall owner looked at Ling Jiasin with disgust. Why couldn't this person see others doing well? "I'm willing to be cheated. It's none of your business." Once he finished speaking, the stall owner looked at Ling Jiasin with disdain. He took the white porcelain bottle and left the market. He had to quickly test out the effects of this channel opening pill. Everything happened too dramatically. The crowd couldn't react in time. Some cultivators even wanted to ask, was this stall owner really not someone Bailey Hongzhuang found? The refining method of the channel opening pill has been lost for many years. How could Bailey Hongzhuang have it? Too laughable. You're wrong. The vibrating needle technique has also been lost for many years. Doesn't Bailey Hongzhuang still know how to use it? Once these words were spoken, the crowd was stunned. They looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with shock. How could this lost technique appear in Bailey Hongzhuang's hands? Could it be that Bailey Hongzhuang was a cultivator from some powerful family? Ling Jiasin's face was pale. No matter how one looked at it, she had won the bet. She actually lost? 100,000 gold coins and 50 demon crystals. Where would she get them? Bailey Hongzhuang casually glanced at Ling Jiasin. Remember to hand over the bet to me 3 days later. There's so many people here, you won't go back on your word, right? These understated words were like a mountain pressing down on Ling Jiasin's heart. She wanted to renege on the debt, but there were so many people present. If she reneged on the debt, how could she survive in the future? With me around, she won't dare to go back on her word. Gong Xiaoqing's cold and indifferent voice suddenly sounded, as if he had decided the outcome of the trial. Ling Jiasin's face became even paler. Damn it. Why didn't she know that Gong Xiaoqing liked to help people so much? Everyone's eyes were full of interest. Such a huge number. Ling Jiasin was too unlucky. Bailey Hongzhuang methodically put all the things on the stall into her chinquin bag. With so many demon crystals, it was enough for Baishur to eat for a few more days. Speaking of which, exchanging a second-grade medicinal pill for so many demon crystals was really worth it. The sunlight shone on Bailey Hongzhuang and Gong Xiaoqing's bodies. The two figures stretched out their long shadows, looking exceptionally harmonious. That channel-opening pill, is it real? Gong Xiaoqing's indifferent face didn't reveal what he was thinking. He was indeed very surprised. In the past, the channel-opening pill was a pill that many cultivators needed. However, it had completely disappeared 200 years ago. Every time Lu Qinhua talked about it, she would sigh endlessly. Today, seeing Bailey Hongzhuang take out the channel-opening pill, he was truly shocked. Chapter 296. Gong Xiaoqing's deep black eyes stared at Bailey Hongzhuang, an unknown light surging in his eyes, but he didn't say a word. Sure enough, this guy was best at acting cold. Bailey Hongzhuang helplessly shrugged her shoulders. I'll tell you, it's true. Gong Xiaoqing's eyes narrowed, his heart faintly revealing a trace of shock, but he didn't show it on his face as he walked towards the academy. Bailey Hongzhuang was truly extraordinary. Whether it was the vibrating needle technique or the lost channel opening pill, they actually appeared in her hands. This was enough to prove that her background wasn't ordinary. Just who was she? For the first time in his life, Gong Xiaoqing's heart was filled with curiosity. When the students saw Bailey Hongzhuang and Gong Xiaoqing walking side by side, astonishment appeared on their youthful faces. In the past, other than Lu Qinyue, there had never been a woman who could walk with Gong Xiaoqing. Who would have thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would actually walk with him? Everyone's expressions changed. Although Bailey Hongzhuang had only been at the academy for a short period of time, she had already brought them a huge shock. Feeling everyone's astonished gazes, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyebrows slightly raised. Could it be that the news from the market had spread so quickly? When Bailey Hongzhuang returned to the dormitory, she discovered that Zhang Yunfeng was waiting for her outside. Her clear and bright eyes had a trace of understanding as she immediately understood Zhang Yunfeng's intentions for coming. Bailey Hongzhuang. Zhang Yunfeng slowly spoke. Thank you for saving Haoyan. I apologize for my rudeness yesterday. I hope you can forgive me. Her beautiful face was filled with apology and gratitude. Zhang Yunfeng's voice was sincere. Thinking back to how rude she was to Bailey Hongzhuang yesterday, she felt ashamed. Under such circumstances, Bailey Hongzhuang still saved Cui Haoyan. She was truly grateful. I understand your feelings. No need to mind it. Bailey Hongzhuang's smile was full of tolerance and understanding. As a doctor, she had seen many family members, but she would not treat ordinary people. There wasn't much affection between her and Cui Haoyan. The main reason was Dongfang Yu. Zhang Yunfeng was touched. Bailey Hongzhuang was so generous. Compared to her, she was too narrow-minded. Hongzhuang, thank you. If you need Haoyan and I in the future, just let us know. We won't refuse. Zhang Yunfeng's eyes flashed with a determined light. She should repay the kindness of others with a gushing spring. In the future, Bailey Hongzhuang's matters would be her matters. Bailey Hongzhuang smiles gently. Senior sister, you don't have to care too much. Just take good care of Senior Cui. Zhang Yunfeng nodded and bowed deeply. This time, I really have to thank you. Inside the room, Bailey Hongzhuang placed the demon crystals on the bed. Baisher had already jumped onto the bed happily. Its furry body lay on top of the demon crystals, and its mouth opened into a bright smile. Its two claws grabbed a demon crystal and chewed on it. Its whole little face was filled with happiness. Bailey Hongzhuang touched Baisher's little head. The demon crystals were very hard. This little guy's teeth were really good. This Zhang Yunfeng seems to be not bad. She's not as annoying as yesterday. Xiao Bai said as she tidied up her fur. At least she knows how to repay kindness. Xiao He snorted. Its master was already very kind to help, but they still dared to say such things. Chapter 297. With Cui Haoyan and Zhang Yunfeng's status, it wasn't a bad deal to have them owe him a favor. Haha, I knew master wouldn't do a bad deal. Xiao He proudly raised her eyebrows. Gong Xiaoqing had just returned to his room when Dongfang Yu knocked on the door. Gong Xiaoqing, today I learned about Bailey Hongzhuang from a cultivator from Feng Bo Country's Imperial City. It's really too outrageous. Do you want to hear it? Dongfang Yu blinked his peach blossom eyes and looked at Gong Xiaoqing with a smile that wasn't a smile. Gong Xiaoqing lazily glanced at Dongfang Yu. If you want to say it, then say it. Dongfang Yu's smile widened. With Gong Xiaoqing's temperament, he didn't completely refuse because he wanted to know. Previously, we all thought that Bailey Hongzhuang was the general's daughter. Later, I learned that she was bullied in the general's household. In the past, she was widely known as trash in the Imperial City. Until this year, Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly rose up and shone brightly. Not only did she win first place in the royal hunting competition, she was also a famous genius doctor in the Imperial City. After understanding all this, Dongfang Yu's shock couldn't be any greater. He finally understood why Bailey Hongzhuang had such a reaction when he said that Bailey Hongzhuang was a pampered young lady. She was bullied and ridiculed when she was young. How could she be pampered? She couldn't even compare to the life of a commoner. Gong Xiaoqing's eyes also revealed a trace of surprise. With Bailey Hongzhuang's current performance, they couldn't tell that she had experienced such a past. So, Bailey Hongzhuang's transformation happened this year? Dongfang nodded slightly. Correct. Whether it was opening Godly Doctor Square or revealing her strength, it all happened this year. In my opinion, Bailey Hongzhuang must have endured for many years before finally erupting this year. What a strong endurance. His gentle and handsome face revealed shock and sorrow. If it was an ordinary person, they would have already been overwhelmed under such circumstances, not to mention accumulating all their strength for a day to erupt. More than 10 years of enduring humiliation in exchange for a resounding slap on everyone's face. His temperament was simply terrifying. He had always felt that Gong Xiaoqing's calmness and cultivation was terrifying, but after knowing about Bailey Hongzhuang's experience, he felt that Bailey Hongzhuang was the most powerful. Adversity made people grow, but Bailey Hongzhuang was in a desperate situation. If that's the case, then Bailey Hongzhuang is very scary. Gong Xiaoqing used the word terrifying because if one did not personally experience it, one would not be able to understand how painful it was to struggle under such circumstances. He was afraid that the driving force behind Bailey Hongzhuang's growth all these years was her hatred towards the general's residence. However, they couldn't feel this from Bailey Hongzhuang at all. It was clear that Bailey Hongzhuang was very thoughtful. Scary. Dongfang Yu's long eyebrows slanted, his pink peach blossom eyes twinkling with a charming light. I don't think so. As a cultivator, the most important thing is perseverance and patience. Gong Xiaoqing did not deny it. With such qualities, Bailey Hongzhuang's future could be imagined. Cultivation is one thing, but medical skills. It's impossible to rely on Bailey Hongzhuang alone. Gong Xiaoqing's voice deepened. She must have a powerful master. I think so too. Perhaps it was this master who cured Bailey Hongzhuang. Chapter 298. Such a stubborn girl, full of pride and arrogance, made him feel distressed. Hey, don't call Bailey Hongzhuang a stupid girl in the future. Otherwise, I won't let you go. Dongfang Yu punched Gong Xiaoqing's chest, his hands behind his head, and leisurely returned to his room. Gong Xiaoqing's expression changed for a moment. Dongfang Yu seemed a little different. Because they completed the mercenary mission of the armored rhinoceros, Bailey Hongzhuang received 100 points. There were a lot of things to do in the school, and they couldn't continue the mission in a short time. So, she simply went to the cultivation tower to take a look. As the most attractive cultivation tower in the Azure Water School, there must be a reason for it to be famous. She didn't know if 100 points was a lot or a little, but in any case, she first went to take a look. The cultivation tower was the tallest building in the Azure Water School, with a total of 21 floors. Even outside the Azure Water School, one could see the existence of the cultivation tower at a glance. The cultivation pagoda was completely black, reserved and deep. It was made of a special material that was slightly transparent like colored glass. Even under the sunlight, it did not reflect the slightest bit of light. It was like a huge magnet that completely absorbed everything. Just by looking at this appearance, one could feel that it was unusual. The moment she entered the cultivation tower, Bailey Hongzhuang clearly felt a vague aura scanning her. Presumably, this was to determine whether or not she was a student of the Azure Water School. Standing on the first floor, Bailey Hongzhuang felt an unusually rich spirit energy. This spirit energy was all pouring into her body. Her dark and bright eyes flashed with excitement. No wonder the cultivation speed of the Azure Water School's cultivators was far faster than other cultivators. Cultivating in this kind of place, one's cultivation speed would be much faster than before. Glancing around, Bailey Hongzhuang found that there were 8 rooms on the first floor. The place was very spacious, and each stone room was not small. At this time, Bailey Hongzhuang noticed a plaque hanging next to the entrance. It clearly explained the amount of points needed to cultivate on each floor for a day. The first floor, 100 points a day. The second floor, 95 points a day. The third floor, 90 points a day. The higher the floor, the lesser the points required. Because the origin power was all gathered underground, the lower the floor, the better the effect of cultivation. Bailey Hongzhuang had 100 points, but she could only cultivate for one day on the first floor. Although the effect of this cultivation tower is good, the points required are also very large. If I want to cultivate on this floor for a few more days, how many missions would I have to complete? Bailey Hongzhuang was secretly speechless. She had followed Gong Shaoqing and the others to complete the mission. The level of the mission was not low, and the four of them had an average of 100 points each. The points earned by the other students of Itsang Lan School were probably even less. It seemed that everyone was saving their points. It turned out that points were the most important thing for the students of the Itsang Lan School. "Master, this place is amazing," Xiao He and Xiao Bai said excitedly. Such abundant and dense essence energy was similarly beneficial to their cultivation. "Let's go up first and find a good place to cultivate." Her delicate and beautiful face outlined a playful smile. Other people who came here could only cultivate by themselves, but she could cultivate with Xiao He, Xiao Bai, and Bai Shi. It was worth it to spend these points. Chapter 299. Although it consumed a lot of points, Bailey Hongzhuang found that almost every room was filled with people. There were also many cultivators guarding the floor, waiting for other cultivators to come out of the stone rooms. Outside the stone room, there was a sign on the door showing how much time the cultivator had left to cultivate. It was convenient for everyone to find a place to cultivate. Bailey Hongzhuang arrived at the 11th floor. Here, her points were enough to cultivate for 2 days. Even if she went up, unless she reached the 15th floor, her points were only enough to rest for 2 days. The 11th floor also had 8 stone rooms, but compared to the first floor, the space was a bit narrower. Bailey Hongzhuang found that each floor had 8 stone rooms, but the space was gradually narrowing. On the 11th floor, each stone room could hold about 3 people. She believed that on the 21st floor, the stone room could only hold 1 person, and it was still slightly narrow. Bailey Hongzhuang noticed that one of the stone rooms would end in an hour, so she simply waited outside the room. Sitting on the ground, Bailey Hongzhuang also entered into a state of cultivation. Cultivating in this open space was also very beneficial, but the cultivation pagoda clearly stated that you can only sit and rest in the open space when you're waiting. Otherwise, your points will be deducted. With such a punishment, all the students followed the rules. After all, the dignity of the Azure Water School was not to be trifled with. An hour passed in the blink of an eye. Only to hear a slight gotcha sound, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes flashed with joy. It was finally her turn. Inside the stone room, a green-robed man walked out. When a man saw Bailey Hongzhuang's face, he was stunned for a moment, but then he immediately took a step forward and prepared to come out. At this time, a familiar and untimely voice suddenly rang out. "Chen Tianzheng, just in time, your cultivation is finished. Give his stone room to me." When Peng Yunxiang arrived at the 11th floor, he found that Bailey Hongzhuang was also here. Previously, he was publicly humiliated by Bailey Hongzhuang at the Mercenary Union. This hatred had not been avenged yet. It was really a small world. Chen Tianzheng was his brother. As long as he opened his mouth, this stone room would definitely belong to him. Although 50 points a day was very expensive, as long as he could make Bailey Hongzhuang unhappy, he would be happy. Chen Tianzheng naturally knew why Peng Yunxiang did this. He immediately smiled and said, "No problem. I was just about to come out. You can go in." Bailey Hongzhuang narrowed her eyes. She didn't expect that Peng Yunxiang would dare to find trouble with her again. Just as Peng Yunxiang was about to enter the stone room, Bailey Hongzhuang stood in front of Peng Yunxiang, her red lips parting slightly. Everything has a first come, first serve. Both Peng Yunxiang and Chen Tianzheng burst into laughter. "Bailey Hongzhuang, there are only 3 of us here. As long as the 2 of us affirm the truth, what's the use of refuting? Pang Yunxiang's eyes flashed with a sinister light. It was because of this woman that he had never been humiliated in front of anyone. Everyone and everything here was because of Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were indifferent and emotionless. I said, "This stone room is mine." Her cold voice was filled with deterrence. Her icy gaze swept across Pang Yunxiang and Chen Tianjing's faces, sharp as a knife. This was her warning. Pang Yunxiang sneered. "Bailey Hongzhuang, don't think that you're so great just because you have some strength. We're not afraid of you." He admitted that he alone was no match for Bailey Hongzhuang. However, with the two of them working together, Bailey Hongzhuang was definitely no match for them. Chapter 300. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into an enchanting smile. Her enchanting and delicate face emitted a charm that could turn all living things upside down. Her pair of phoenix eyes were like a poisonous snake, flashing with a vicious and ruthless light. She, Bailey Hongzhuang, didn't like to casually make a move, so did she think that she was easy to bully? One had to know that she had never been a good-tempered person. Bang! Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly threw a punch at Pang Yunxiang. A turbulent surge of energy exploded on her fist, sending Pang Yunxiang's body flying over 10 meters. Although Pang Yunxiang was also at the Mystic Yuan middle stage, Bailey Hongzhuang had never placed him in her eyes. The sudden turn of events had exceeded Chen Tianjing's expectations. Before Pang Yunxiang could even react, Bailey Hongzhuang had already made her move. "I'm bullying your brother. What can you do about it?" Her contrasting black and white eyes flashed with a dazzling light. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her chin slightly, her attitude arrogant and domineering. Chen Tianjing's eyes widened in anger. He had wanted to help Pang Yunxiang get back at her today, but he didn't expect Pang Yunxiang to be beaten up again. He felt that this punch didn't land on Pang Yunxiang's body, but on his face. "Bailey Hongzhuang, you're a specially recruited student. I admit that your strength and innate talent aren't bad, but I'm at the Mystic Yuan late stage." Even if he wasn't a specially recruited student, he had cultivated for a longer time than Bailey Hongzhuang, and his strength was also stronger than Bailey Hongzhuang. Perhaps in another year's time, he might not be Bailey Hongzhuang's match, but the current Bailey Hongzhuang wasn't his match. Mystic Yuan late stage. Bailey Hongzhuang's pretty face revealed a look of shock and faintly revealed traces of fear. In the next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang changed the topic. "Is it that great?" Chen Tianjing's eyes were filled with anger. This Bailey Hongzhuang was simply too hateful. His casual words were filled with mockery and insult. "You're courting death." Chen Tianjing gritted his teeth as the essence energy in his body burst forth. If he didn't teach Bailey Hongzhuang a lesson, then Bailey Hongzhuang would be too arrogant. "Beat him up." Xiao He waved her fists angrily. Such an eyesore should be stomped to death. Bailey Hongzhuang flicked her right hand, and Xiao He and Xiao Bai were sent flying. Bang! Bang! Two soft sounds were heard. Xiao He and Xiao Bai's bodies smashed into Chen Tianjing's eyes. "Ah!" Chen Tianjing let out a howl of anguish. An intense pain came from his eyes, and the half-gathered origin energy also suddenly dispersed. Bailey Hongzhuang kicked Chen Tianjing in the stomach and sent him flying more than 10 meters away. Just as Pang Yunxiang stood up while clutching his abdomen, he saw Chen Tianjing rushing towards him at lightning speed. "Ah!" With another howl, Pang Yunxiang was heavily pressed under Chen Tianjing's body. Pang Yunxiang's body was thin and weak, but Chen Tianjing was a solid fatty. At this moment, he was free-falling onto Pang Yunxiang's body. Pang Yunxiang immediately spat out a mouthful of blood and was pressed to the point of being half dead. "Chen Tianjing, get up quickly!" Pang Yunxiang wailed. If he was pressed down like this, his life would really be over. "I'll get up immediately." Chen Tianjing nodded repeatedly and looked angrily at Bailey Hongzhuang. "You actually used a hidden weapon." Under Xiao He and Xiao Bai's attack, Chen Tianjing's eyes were already swollen like a panda. At this moment, he could barely open his eyes, but he couldn't see the scene in front of him clearly. Chapter 301. Asterisk Pung. Asterisk, the two of them once again fell to the ground. Pang Yunxiang spat out another mouthful of blood, his face already pale. The two of you better take a detour when you see me in the future. Otherwise, next time, I will make you completely disappear from this world. The cold voice was filled with dense killing intent, causing Pang Yunxiang and Chen Tianzheng to shiver. This killing intent sent a chill down their spines. Bailey Hongzhuang no longer paid attention to the two of them. She inserted her points card into the card slot and closed the door. The spirit energy in the stone room was much denser and purer than outside. Bailey Hongzhuang took a deep breath. This kind of place was really the best place to cultivate. Xiao He, Xiao Bai, and Bai Shi each chose a place. One person and 3 beasts began cultivating in the cultivation pagoda. After the stall owner took the channel opening pill, his original inability to cultivate completely improved. He was even more certain that this was the real channel opening pill. There were many people in the city square who understood the stall owner's situation. When they found out that the stall owner was already able to cultivate, they were all shocked. The long-lost channel opening pill had appeared once again. This news spread like the wind in Songlan City. There were many cultivators who had personally witnessed Bailey Hongzhuang using the channel opening pill to trade with the stall owner. At this moment, they even added oil and vinegar to the story. Channel opening pill. This was a pill that many cultivators needed. As long as their meridians were widened, their cultivation speed would greatly increase. At the same time, it would be beneficial for them to walk further on the path of cultivation. Azure Water City was in a huge uproar. Many cultivators wanted to find Bailey Hongzhuang and find out the truth. It would be best if they could find a way to obtain a channel opening pill. That would be great. Some cultivators knew that Bailey Hongzhuang was doing business with the stall owner for monster crystals. Although they didn't know what Bailey Hongzhuang wanted monster crystals for, they all began to collect them. As long as there were enough monster crystals, they believed that they could exchange for a channel opening pill. That was a pill that had been lost for generations. As long as they had it and other cultivators didn't, their cultivation speed would undoubtedly be much faster than other cultivators. Although monster crystals weren't cheap, they were useless to them. How could they be more important than the channel opening pill? While everyone was looking for Bailey Hongzhuang, they discovered that Bailey Hongzhuang had disappeared. There was no longer a Bailey Hongzhuang in the dormitory. When Dongfang Yu and the others found out, they were shocked. Who knows how many cultivators were wandering outside the dormitory? As long as Bailey Hongzhuang appeared, they didn't doubt that these cultivators would swarm her, completely surrounding her. How did Bailey Hongzhuang have a channel opening pill? Dongfang Yu's handsome eyes flashed with doubt. Bailey Hongzhuang's performance was truly shocking. Lu Qinwei frowned slightly. Her delicate and gentle face was filled with thoughts. Is Hongzhuang also an alchemist? She shouldn't be. Dongfang Yu rubbed his chin. This girl was already a genius doctor who had grasped the vibrating needle technique. If she was also an alchemist, then how much energy did she have? Cultivation, medical skills, and alchemy, no matter which of these three, they all required a huge amount of energy and time. Chapter 302. The worry in the depths of Lu Qinyue's eyes gradually dissipated. She was originally the well-deserved goddess in the eyes of all the cultivators in the Azure Water School. But ever since Bailey Hongzhuang appeared, everything became precarious. The #1 beauty, everyone was already talking about her. She and Bailey Hongzhuang could be said to be on par with each other. Her identity as an alchemist also added a lot of value to her. Who would have thought that Bailey Hongzhuang actually mastered the long-lost vibrating needle technique? With the title of godly doctor hanging on her head, she wasn't much weaker than an alchemist. If Bailey Hongzhuang was also an alchemist, then she would be completely defeated. However, her thoughts were the same as Dongfang Yu's. After all, a person's energy was limited. It was impossible to master everything. Moreover, the conditions to become an alchemist were very harsh. How could there be such a coincidence? Gong Xiaoqing looked at the many students downstairs. This was only the situation inside the school. Outside the school, There were even more people who wanted to find Bailey Hongzhuang. When he saw that scene in the market yesterday, he had already anticipated that such a situation would occur. The channel opening pill was indeed very attractive to cultivators. Where did Bailey Hongzhuang go? Dongfang Yu's handsome eyebrows rose. Yesterday, he saw Bailey Hongzhuang. How come he didn't know where she went today? Cultivation Tower. Leaving behind these three indifferent words, Gong Xiaoqing turned around and returned to his room. Oh, Dongfang Yu suddenly understood. So it was like that, but how did this guy know? Dongfang Yu rubbed the hair on the back of his head and also turned around to return to his room. 100 points. He wouldn't be able to stay in the cultivation tower for long. Lu Qingyue looked at Gong Xiaoqing's back as he left, her clear eyes filled with a complicated expression. Normally, Gong Xiaoqing didn't pay attention to anything. They didn't even know where Hongzhuang went. So how did Gong Xiaoqing know? Her heart tightened for a moment, but Lu Qingyue didn't show it on her face. Ling Jiaxin was undoubtedly the most depressed person. Ever since she left the market yesterday, she had been piecing together gold coins and demon crystals. Even if she gathered everything she had, it would not be enough for 100,000 gold coins and 50 demon crystals. She had no choice but to scrape together and borrow some from her friends. With Gong Xiaoqing's deterrence, it was impossible for her to renege on her debt. She had no choice but to sell her most precious points. Only then was she able to gather enough. She was in such a miserable state, but Bailey Hongzhuang had become the target of all cultivators. How hateful! As long as she waited for Yin to come back, she would definitely make Bailey Hongzhuang pay it back 1,000 times. While the entire Canglan city was going crazy over the channel opening pill, Bailey Hongzhuang was immersed in the cultivation pagoda. Such abundant essence energy was truly greatly beneficial to cultivation. During the trip to the falling Cloud Mountain range, her strength had increased to a certain extent. Cultivating in the cultivation pagoda would allow her to maximize her progress. Xiao He and Xiao Bai were excitedly absorbing the essence energy in the cultivation pagoda. At their level, wanting to increase their strength was already very difficult, but cultivating was still something they had to do every day. Compared to Xiao He and Xiao Bai's seriousness, Baisher found a comfortable place to eat and sleep and eat. Because Baisher was a beast king, it only needed to sleep to be able to absorb essence, energy, and increase its cultivation. After knowing this, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but feel a little envious. Eating and sleeping and eating could increase one's cultivation. This was too great. Chapter 303. Other cultivation methods use the body's main meridians to cultivate and raise one's cultivation. But the demon summoning scripture used all the meridians in the body to cultivate together. Ever since Bailey Hongzhuang started cultivating the demon summoning scripture, she cultivated 2 more meridians than other cultivators. And now, the meridians she cultivated were 3 more than others. This number didn't seem large, but as long as one was a cultivator, they would understand the weight of these 3 meridians. What's more, these meridians were still constantly being opened, and in the future, her cultivation speed would far surpass other cultivators. This was the heaven-defying aspect of a forbidden cultivation method. When the 2 days were up, a subtle reminder sounded and Xiao He and Xiao Bai climbed back on a Bailey Hongzhuang's head, while Bailey Hongzhuang carried Baisher and left the cultivation pagoda. In a short 2 days of cultivation, Bailey Hongzhuang realized the benefits of the cultivation pagoda. She needed to earn more points so that she could raise her cultivation faster. However, when Bailey Hongzhuang returned to the dormitory, she was shocked by the sea of people. When did our dormitory become so lively? Her ink-black phoenix eyes revealed a trace of astonishment. Could it be that in these 2 days, something lively had happened in the special enrollment class? Jiang Pengyi had already waited outside the dormitory for 2 days, but he still hadn't seen Bailey Hongzhuang, and his heart was filled with helplessness. Logically speaking, the demonic beast tide in the falling Cloud Mountain range had only passed a short time ago, and she shouldn't have gone out to accept missions. Then where did she go, and why was there no trace of her? When they heard the shocking news of the channel opening pill, they didn't have any hope at first. After all, they didn't have any friendship with Bailey Hongzhuang, and Bailey Hongzhuang didn't have any need to help them. However, he inadvertently discovered that his roommate Xiao Zifan was actually from the same dynasty as Bailey Hongzhuang, and Xiao Zifan was even Bailey Hongzhuang's friend. In this way, as long as Xiao Zifan spoke, wouldn't they have hope? Jiang Pingyi, let's go back. Hongzhuang is very busy every day. Let's not disturb her. Xiao Zifan looked embarrassed. Bailey Hongzhuang was very good to him and gave him a Peiyuan Dan. He had always remembered this kindness in his heart. However, he had nothing to repay Bailey Hongzhuang. At this moment, he was dragged by Jiang Pingyi and the others to disturb Bailey Hongzhuang. He felt a great burden in his heart. Xiao Zifan, we just want to find an opportunity to exchange monster crystals for channel opening pills. We're not asking for pills. Please help us with this. Jiang Pingyi had a pleading look on his face. With their current strength, it would be very difficult for them to achieve anything in the Azure Water School. If they had the channel opening pill, it would be much better for them. One had to know that before the channel opening pill was lost, any cultivator with the right conditions would use it because the effect of broadening the meridians was too great. They also knew that asking Xiao Zifan for help was a bit difficult, but this was the only way they could get close to Bailey Hongzhuang. During this conversation, Jiang Pingyi's eyes lit up, and he excitedly looked forward. Bailey Hongzhuang is back. Currently, Bailey Hongzhuang's name was in everyone's mind. Therefore, when Jiang Pingyi whispered that Bailey Hongzhuang was back, almost all the cultivators looked over. Chapter 304. Master, did you do something that even the heavens wouldn't tolerate? Xiao Hei's face stiffened. This group of people shouldn't be the helpers that Peng Yunxiang found, right? Xiao Bai shrunk his neck. The number of people is a bit scary. They had seen group fights before, but the formation in front of them seemed a bit too big. This group of people is too arrogant. They even dare to block the entrance of the dormitory. Xiao Hei rubbed his fists. Looks like it's time for us, the black-white double demons, to come out. Bailey Hongzhuang. Excited shouts rang out from the crowd, following which all the cultivators rushed forward. The black mass made Bailey Hongzhuang feel even more pressure. Just as the black-white double demons were about to make their move, the students also shouted out their intentions. Bailey Hongzhuang, do you still have more channel opening pills? Bailey Hongzhuang, please sell me a channel opening pill. I don't care how much it costs. Bailey Hongzhuang, I've prepared a lot of monster crystals. I'll give them all to you as long as you give me a channel opening pill. Bailey Hongzhuang finally realized that so many people had come for the channel opening pill. It seemed that the stall owner had already proven the effects of the channel opening pill. The channel opening pill was a very common pill back in her time, but it was abnormally precious here. Because without it, it was all precious. This was actually good news for her. If she used the channel opening pill to exchange for monster crystals, she wouldn't need to worry about preparing food for Baisher. Thinking about the points she needed, Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled up. She seemed to have found a very feasible method. Dongfang Yu heard the commotion below and immediately understood that Bailey Hongzhuang had returned. Otherwise, it wouldn't be so lively. He hurriedly walked out of the room. If he was surrounded by so many cultivators, it wouldn't be easy to walk out. Everyone quiet down and listen to me. Bailey Hongzhuang spoke out. With so many students surrounding her, she didn't even have a chance to speak. The students at the front had quieted down, while the students at the back began to scramble for medicinal pills. For a moment, the scene was very chaotic. A trace of helplessness appeared in her ink-black, jade-like phoenix eyes. It looked like she had to use her ultimate move. However, just as Bailey Hongzhuang was about to unleash her ultimate move, a blue figure appeared beside her. Following the man's action, the noisy students around him miraculously quieted down. Bailey Hongzhuang turned around and looked at Dongfang Yu in astonishment. She didn't expect Dongfang Yu to appear so timely. Dongfang Yu was wearing an aqua-blue brocade robe, which accentuated his tall and straight figure. His temperament was as gentle as jade, and his facial features were picturesque. It could be said that he was the most pleasing sight in the academy. Dongfang Yu craftily winked at Bailey Hongzhuang with his charming peach blossom eyes. He reached out his hand and pulled Bailey Hongzhuang out of the encirclement. Seeing this scene, the students were all startled. What was the relationship between Dongfang Yu and Bailey Hongzhuang? Although Dongfang Yu usually treated all the students very well, this was the first time they saw him holding a female student's hand. Bailey Hongzhuang was also surprised. However, Dongfang Yu let go of her hand when he brought her out of the encirclement and stood at the entrance of the dormitory. In order to reduce the trouble, I pulled you here. You don't mind, right? Dongfang Yu's warm and pleasant voice was filled with inquiry and concern. His peach blossom eyes were bright and resplendent. Chapter 305. Everyone, listen to me first. A light and beautiful voice came out from Bailey Hongzhuang's mouth. With Dongfang Yu present, all the students quietly looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, wanted to know if Bailey Hongzhuang still had any more channel opening pills in her hands. I know that everyone is here for the channel opening pills, and I do indeed have some on hand. However, since this is a business transaction, then the price should be clearly stated. 7 days later, I will take out 3 channel opening pills for auction. Everyone can use points, monster crystals, or other rare herbs to try and exchange for them. How about it? An enchanting smile appeared on her delicate face. Her originally otherworldly figure was now like a playful elf, attracting everyone's attention with each and every action. Bailey Hongzhuang was very clear on how to maximize the value of a channel opening pill. In her previous life, she had done this kind of thing many times. When the students heard this, they were startled at first, but then a strong determination emerged in their eyes. 3 channel opening pills were already much better than what they had imagined. As long as they had the pills, they would have hope. Moreover, although the auction format was somewhat out of their expectations, cultivators who weren't familiar with Bailey Hongzhuang didn't need to worry about others trying to curry favor with her. This was absolutely fair. As for how to obtain the channel opening pills, that would depend on their own abilities. Dongfang Yu's amorous peach blossom eyes flashed with surprise and admiration. He had never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would have such a method. Not only was he shocked that Bailey Hongzhuang still had 3 channel opening pills, but why would such a long-lost pill be in Bailey Hongzhuang's hands? At this moment, he was even more impressed with Bailey Hongzhuang's business acumen. An auction format was something that had never happened before in the history of Azure Water School. This kind of method could maximize the benefits. Points were treasures that many students wouldn't sell. However, he believed that in 3 days, there would be many students who would want to exchange for points. 7 days later, at the same time, let's meet here, how about it? With a confident smile on her beautiful face, Bailey Hongzhuang's tone was indifferent. Since the channel opening pills were in her hands, then the right to speak was naturally in her hands. Ling Jiasin put in a lot of effort and took out all the things that could be used to raise money. Only then was she able to raise 100,000 gold coins and 50 demon crystals. Today, she was completely penniless. If Dai Yunyang didn't return, then she really didn't know how she would continue to live. However, when Ling Jiasin arrived at the dormitory, she saw a lively scene. Bailey Hongzhuang was like a goddess standing in front of everyone. Everyone's expectant eyes fell on her, waiting for her to give orders. Ling Jiasin's pure white fingers quietly clenched. Her heart was simply depressed to the extreme. Why? Why did she have to fall into such dire straits? While Bailey Hongzhuang had endless glory. Bailey Hongzhuang, you're not an alchemist. Where did these pills come from? You couldn't have just casually brought out a pill and wanted to fool everyone, right? Ling Jiasin's voice suddenly rang out. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyebrows twitched. Looking at Ling Jiasin, who was gradually approaching, the corners of her mouth curled up in a mocking smile. Oh, isn't this Ling Jiasin? Are you here to repay your debt? Chapter 306. She, Ling Jiasin, was considered a rather famous person in Azure Water School. Now that she was in such dire straits because of Bailey Hongzhuang, this woman actually dared to say it in front of so many people. Isn't it just these things? I'll give it to you. Ling Jiasin walked in front of Bailey Hongzhuang and directly handed over 100,000 gold coins and 50 monster crystals to Bailey Hongzhuang. Her expression and eyes were filled with disdain, as if these things were nothing to her. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes flashed with a trace of craftiness. How come I heard that Miss Ling has become quite haggard recently in order to gather these things? She, Bailey Hongzhuang, wasn't someone who would suffer a loss. If you want to ruin her show, you have to consider whether you have the ability to do so. Everyone's gaze fell on Ling Jiasin and Bailey Hongzhuang. Everyone had heard of the conflict between the two. If it wasn't for the bet, they wouldn't have known that Bailey Hongzhuang had the channel opening pills. Thus, although Ling Jiasin was in dire straits these days, they were still very grateful to her. Ling Jiasin's eyes flashed. This Bailey Hongzhuang always had the ability to anger people to death with her words. Since she couldn't win, Ling Jiasin simply didn't continue to argue with Bailey Hongzhuang on this matter. Bailey Hongzhuang, don't change the topic. Ling Jiasin's eyes flashed with a sinister light of hatred. You're not an alchemist. How can you guarantee that the pills you take out are real? Dongfang Yu looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with concern. This Ling Jiasin, every time she stirred up trouble, Bailey Hongzhuang gave Dongfang Yu a reassuring smile, then turned to look at Ling Jiasin with ridicule. What? Do you want to bet with me again? When these words came out, the students present couldn't help but sneer. Didn't they see that Ling Jiasin's face was already red? You. Ling Jiasin was unable to restrain her anger. She only lost a bet, but she felt that she would never be able to raise her head in front of Bailey Hongzhuang for the rest of her life. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes became indifferent. That beautiful face of hers slightly raised as the golden sunlight sprinkled on her body. She was magnificent, and a noble aura emanated from her body. Why do I need to prove my pills to you? A sharp and terrifying light flashed in her eyes. Who do you think you are? As for the effects of the channel opening pill, if everyone believes in it, then come back 7 days later. If not, then forget it. Bailey Hongzhuang don't like to explain myself. His extremely arrogant voice was filled with the arrogance that came from his bones. She never to explain herself. If everyone believed it, then so be it. If not, then so be it. Just how arrogant, how confident was confidence did she? Of course, after saying her last sentence, Bailey Hongzhuang turned around and walked into the special enrollment dormitory with Dongfang Yu. The other cultivators looked at Ling Jiasin with disdain and displeasure. They originally wanted to ask some more questions, but because of Ling Jiasin's interference, they no longer had the chance. They had never doubted the effects of the channel opening pill. That stall owner had already used his own experience to clearly tell them that the channel opening pill was real. Moreover, no matter how you looked at it, Bailey Hongzhuang didn't seem like someone who lacked money. Why would she ruin her reputation in the school for such a small amount of money? Special enrollment, godly doctor, which of these two identities wasn't worth more than 3 channel opening pills? Chapter 307. Feeling everyone's disgusted gaze, Ling Jiasin's face became even uglier. She shouted, "What are you looking at? Aren't I doing this for your own good?" Hearing this, everyone was speechless. If it wasn't for Dai Yunyan's identity, they would have rushed up and taught Ling Jiasin a lesson. Such an attitude, no matter who saw it, would inevitably arouse some anger. What a crazy woman! There are idiots every year, but this year there are especially many. Why bother with her? Don't lower your own style. Words of ridicule and ridicule were casually spoken by the students. They obviously didn't have a good impression of Ling Jiasin. The students gradually dispersed, leaving Ling Jiasin standing there in a daze. In the past, these people used to look at her with envious eyes. Among them, there was no lack of people who tried to curry favor with her. What happened today? Why did everyone stand on Bailey Hongzhuang's side? How hateful! Ling Jiasin was incomparably eager for Dai Yunyang to come back. As long as Dai Yunyang came back, these people would definitely not dare to treat her like this. Dongfang Yu and Bailey Hongzhuang walked together in the hallway of the dormitory. "You've been in the cultivation tower for the past 2 days?" Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and nodded. Yes, I used up all my points after cultivating for 2 days. However, cultivating in the cultivation tower is indeed very effective. Dongfang Yu raised his eyebrows. It seemed that Gong Xiaoqing was very familiar with Bailey Hongzhuang's movements. Senior Dongfang, there is something I need to ask of you. Bailey Hongzhuang stared at Dongfang Yu, her clear and bright eyes filled with expectation. What is it? As long as I can do it, there won't be a problem. Dongfang Yu replied very straightforwardly. His voice was light and cheerful. I hope that you will appear in the auction 3 days later. Your reputation in the school is quite high. With you there, everyone will be more orderly. Her dark and bright phoenix eyes flashed with wisdom. Although her reputation in the school was quite resounding, it still wasn't as good as Dongfang Yu's. After all, reputation wasn't something that could be built up overnight. Dongfang Yu had already stayed in the school for a year and had an irreplaceable position in the hearts of the students. Dongfang Yu suddenly nodded and said, No problem. Don't worry. Thank you in advance. Returning to her room, Bailey Hongzhuang immediately took out her pill furnace. She didn't have any extra channel opening pills on hand and needed to start refining now. The channel opening pill that she had given to the stall owner was originally for her own use. Because of the demon summoning scripture's special nature, not only did it need to open up the meridians, it also needed to widen the meridians. Thus, using the channel opening pill was extremely effective. The stall owner's demand for the channel opening pill had exceeded her expectations, but now that things had developed to this point, it was quite good. The news that Bailey Hongzhuang still had a channel opening pill in her hand spread throughout the entire Azure Water School. This news was very exciting for everyone. As long as they had enough items to exchange for it, they would be able to obtain the channel opening pill they yearned for in their dreams. Although it was in the form of an auction, the students' impression of Bailey Hongzhuang increased a bit. This was because Bailey Hongzhuang had chosen to auction it within the school and not at Azure Water City's auction house. Otherwise, with their financial resources, they wouldn't be able to compete with those merchants. It was because of this that no one could say that Bailey Hongzhuang placed benefits above all else. She was also taking care of the students of the Azure Water School. Chapter 308. Everyone knew that the only things that could move Bailey Hongzhuang were monster crystals, points, and herbs. Gold coins were the most useless, so everyone was collecting special materials in order to move Bailey Hongzhuang. At the same time, some rumors about Bailey Hongzhuang and Dongfang Yu began to spread. Although Senior Dongfang treats everyone well, he treats Bailey Hongzhuang too differently. I think Senior Dongfang might like Bailey Hongzhuang. Then what should we do? I've liked Senior Dongfang for a long time. If Senior Dongfang really has a sweetheart, then the female students' hearts were filled with sorrow. They only hoped that this wasn't true. After all, if their sweetheart had someone else by her side, they wouldn't have the slightest bit of hope left in their hearts. Bailey Hongzhuang is so beautiful. Isn't it normal for Dongfang Yu to like her? Don't mention Dongfang Yu. Almost every man would like her. The male students weren't surprised at all. No matter how you looked at it, Bailey Hongzhuang was fully deserving of being called a proud daughter of heaven. Although Lu Qinyue was known as Azure Water School's #1 beauty, they felt that the newcomer was more down to earth. Compared to the various discussions in the outside world, Bailey Hongzhuang didn't know a thing. She was only focused on refining pills in her room. Master, haven't you already refined 4 channel opening pills? Why do you still need to refine? Xiaohei was bored to death as she brushed Xiaobai's hair. When Master was serious about something, she was very awesome. For example, refining pills. Ever since Master came back, she had been refining pills. It seemed like she wouldn't stop until her mental force couldn't take it anymore. 3 pills for the auction and 1 for herself, so 4 pills should be enough. Bang! The lid of the furnace was lifted. Another channel opening pill had been successfully refined. Bailey Hongzhuang placed the channel opening pill into a white porcelain bottle while smiling. Senior Dongfang, Jiqing, and the others are all my good friends. Every cultivator needs channel opening pills, so I prepared one for them. Towards true friends, she was never stingy. Although the grade of the channel opening pill wasn't high, it was still quite useful for cultivators. All along, Dongfang Yu and the others had treated her extremely well and helped her a lot. She had no way of repaying them, so the channel opening pill was undoubtedly an excellent choice. Upon hearing this, Xiao Hei finally understood. She immediately went up to Bailey Hongzhuang and asked, "Master, what do you think of Senior Dongfang?" Bailey Hongzhuang narrowed her eyes. Her instincts told her that Xiao Hei's question was not as simple as it seemed. "What are you trying to say?" Xiao Hei clasped her hands together. "Master, although I also think that Senior Dongfang is not bad, I'm still on Di Beichen's side. Dongfang Yu had always taken good care of its master, and it could vaguely feel that, but it was more interested in Di Beichen. Haha. Ha! Bailey Hongzhuang sent Xiao Hei flying with a slap. "Little furball, don't think about such a profound question." Xiao Hei crashed into the wall and miserably rolled back. She quietly sat on the side, not daring to speak. Xiao Bai sighed and helplessly looked at Xiao Hei. "I told you, Master still likes Senior Dongfang. You just didn't believe me. So you were beaten?" Bailey Hongzhuang was just about to continue refining pills when she suddenly heard Xiao Bai's words. She was speechless and casually sent Xiao Bai flying to the side. Chapter 309. As soon as these words were spoken, Xiao Hei and Xiao Bai's expressions changed. With great tacit understanding, they covered their mouths with their hands and obediently sat under the bed, indicating that they would no longer speak. Baisher proudly walked to Bailey Hongzhuang's side and took a demon crystal from Bailey Hongzhuang's hand. He ate it with a crunchy sound while proudly looking at the other two fellows who were being punished. A villain intoxicated by success. Xiao Hei angrily said, "Don't look at how Baisher usually acted like a natural airhead and acted cute all day. In reality, he was very smart." White Lion proudly stretched his back and twisted his plump buttocks, thinking to himself, "Who asked you to be so blind? Now you're in for it." Xiao Bai angrily clenched his teeth. He felt that he hadn't hit anyone in a while, and his hands were itching. Xiao Hei and Xiao Bai looked at each other. It seemed that they couldn't let Baisher, this little baby, continue to be arrogant. The next day, Bailey Hongzhuang finished refining the channel opening pill and walked out of the room. Slowly walking up to the third floor, Bailey Hongzhuang knocked on Dongfang Yu's room, but found no one inside. A trace of doubt appeared in her bright black eyes. Could it be that Dongfang Yu went out? Just as Bailey Hongzhuang was thinking, the door behind her suddenly opened. "Looking for Dongfang Yu?" An indifferent and cold voice slowly sounded. Who else could it be other than Gong Shaoqing? Bailey Hongzhuang turned around and slightly nodded, smiling sweetly. "It's the same if you're here." Gong Shaoqing's expression was slightly puzzled. He opened the door and motioned for Bailey Hongzhuang to enter. When Bailey Hongzhuang walked into the room, she found that Dongfang Yu and Lu Qingyue were both here. Her eyes couldn't help but reveal a trace of surprise. "You were looking for me?" Dongfang Yu stood up and smiled at Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. "Since you're all here, I came to give you something." Taking out 3 white porcelain bottles from her spatial pouch, Bailey Hongzhuang handed them to Dongfang Yu and the other two. "The channel opening pill should be of help to you." As soon as she said this, the 3 looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in astonishment. The channel opening pill was the most popular pill in Azure Water School. Its value was self-evident, and Bailey Hongzhuang actually gave it to them. "We can't accept this pill," Gong Shaoqing said in a deep voice. They didn't know how Bailey Hongzhuang, but they couldn't just accept it. But they couldn't accept it. But they couldn't accept. That was the highest bid. But they didn't expect Bailey Hongzhuang to give it to them. That was a pill that many cultivators yearned for. "Ever since I came to Azure Water School, you've always taken care of me. I have nothing to repay you with, so don't decline." Bailey Hongzhuang smiled sweetly and placed the white porcelain bottles in their hands. "To me, the channel opening pill is only a second-grade pill. You don't need to care too much about it." To other cultivators, the channel opening pill was a lost pill, a priceless treasure. But to her, who grasped the pill recipe, it was only an ordinary second-grade pill. Lu Qinyue looked at the channel-opening pill in her hand and couldn't hide her shock. After the news of the channel-opening pill spread, she asked her master and looked up the characteristics of the channel-opening pill from ancient books. It was exactly the same as the pill in front of her. Chapter 310. Regardless of whether it was the lost vibrating needle technique or the lost channel-opening pill, who was Bailey Hongzhuang? Others might not know the significance of the channel-opening pill, but as an alchemist, she was very clear about it. Grasping the channel-opening pill's recipe was akin to grasping a huge treasure. Every pill recipe was exceptionally precious, not to mention a pill recipe that everyone needed and had been lost for a long time. Gong Xiaoqing looked deeply at Bailey Hongzhuang, his bright eyes filled with a dark light, unable to hide the shock in his heart. Bailey Hongzhuang, how do you have so many channel-opening pills? Among the three, Dong Fangyu was the closest to Bailey Hongzhuang. Thus his question was very natural. Lu Qinyue's gaze also focused on Bailey Hongzhuang, her clear eyes filled with doubt and probing. Hongzhuang, you are an alchemist? She had always felt that Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't cultivate and study medicine at the same time, or even learn alchemy at the same time. With a person's energy, it was impossible to do all three at the same time. However, whether it was the qi-returning pills that Bailey Hongzhuang took out in Luoyin Mountain Range, or the channel-opening pills that she took out now, if it was an ordinary cultivator, it would be impossible to prepare so many pills. Even if one's family was wealthy, it was impossible for one person to buy so many channel-opening pills. Thus, there's only one reason left. Bailey Hongzhuang was an alchemist. However, Lu Qinyue still felt that this result was inconceivable. That's right, I'm an alchemist. Bailey Hongzhuang calmly admitted with a smile that was like a spring breeze on her beautiful face. To her, this wasn't a secret. When she said this, Dong Fangyu, Gong Xiaoqing, and Lu Qinyue's gazes all fell on Bailey Hongzhuang. Although they had faintly guessed this result, when Bailey Hongzhuang admitted it, they couldn't help but feel shocked. Was she still human? His energy level was too abnormal. Lu Qinyue's usually gentle face was now slightly stiff. Hongzhuang, this channel-opening pill, it couldn't have been refined by you, right? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. That's right, I refined it. Gulp. Dong Fangyu swallowed a mouthful of saliva and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang as if he was looking at a non-human. He simply couldn't believe that a 15-year-old girl could achieve such high achievements in so many aspects at the same time. This was too heaven-defying. Gong Xiaoqing's usually expressionless face had an additional trace of shock at this moment. With Bailey Hongzhuang's age, as long as she had such achievements in strength, medical skills, or alchemy, she was already a genius. However, Bailey Hongzhuang had achieved such impressive results in all three areas. One could imagine the shock in their hearts. Lu Qinyue opened her mouth but didn't know what to say. The channel-opening pill was a second-grade pill. This meant that Bailey Hongzhuang was a second-grade alchemist. She had just passed the Alchemist Guild's second-grade alchemist exam this year and was already called a genius by many seniors. Bailey Hongzhuang was younger than her by a year, yet she had also become a second-grade alchemist. A year's difference didn't seem big, but the difference in talent wasn't small at all. If she was a genius, then what was Bailey Hongzhuang? She simply couldn't imagine what kind of results Bailey Hongzhuang would have if she had put all her energy into alchemy instead of studying medicine. What kind of results would Bailey Hongzhuang have now? Chapter 311. Now that Dong Fangyu had accepted Bailey Hongzhuang's channel-opening pill, he no longer had the mental burden from before. What alchemists didn't lack the least was pills. As long as they were given the ingredients, they could refine them into exceptionally precious pills. Such a peerless genius was actually the trash that everyone in the Imperial City sneered at. Were those fellows in the Imperial City blind? Dong Fangyu felt a burst of helplessness. If General Bailey knew of Bailey Hongzhuang's current results, he really didn't know what he would think. Hongzhuang, did you take the alchemist exam at the Alchemist Association? Lu Qinyue inquired. I didn't. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a beautiful smile. Previously, she had heard Jiqing mention the Alchemist Association and had planned to take the exam there. However, She hadn't found the time to go recently. Lu Qinhue was even more puzzled. Previously, her master had told her that Bailey Hongzhuang might have an extremely powerful force behind her. No matter how one looked at it, Bailey Hongzhuang wasn't an ordinary person. So why didn't she take the exam at the Alchemist Association? Once she joined the Alchemist Association, it would be very convenient for alchemists. If you have time, you might as well take the exam at the Alchemist Association. Lu Qinhue smiled. What are the benefits of taking the exam at the Alchemist Association? Lu Qinhue's beautiful eyes were filled with inquiry. If there weren't any benefits, then there was no need for her to take the exam. After all, she didn't care about her rank as an alchemist. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Lu Qinhue was even more puzzled. How could such an extraordinary Bailey Hongzhuang not know anything about the Alchemist Association? The Alchemist Association has a very powerful system. Many rare ingredients are given priority to the alchemists of the Alchemist Association. This is extremely convenient for us. Then, what do we need to pay? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. Since the Alchemist Association was providing them with convenience, then they also needed to fulfill certain obligations. The Alchemist Association doesn't have any rigid requirements for alchemists. However, when the Alchemist Association needs a certain pill and needs your help to refine it, they will pay you a sufficient reward. Bailey Hongzhuang's phoenix eyes that were as black as ink had an additional trace of understanding. She immediately understood the meaning of the Alchemist Association's existence. Pill recipes were the most precious thing to every alchemist. Therefore, although there were many alchemists, not every alchemist could refine a certain type of medicinal pill. With the existence of the Alchemist Association, there was another way to seek out medicinal pills. The Alchemist Association could directly find an alchemist who could refine this medicinal pill and pay enough remuneration to obtain the medicinal pill. In this way, the medicinal pills would have an additional platform for circulation. This was a win-win situation. It didn't have too many restrictions on the alchemists. Even if the Alchemist Association came to ask for help, alchemists could refuse. It was just that the vast majority of alchemists wouldn't refuse when they enjoyed the convenience provided by the Alchemist Association. I understand. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved into a lotus-like smile, an idea already forming in her mind. Since she wanted to publicly auction the channel opening pill in the academy, it would be best to get the Alchemist Guild's approval. Although she didn't care about it, it was good that no one would criticize her. Chapter 312. She had always been a person who did what she said. She wanted to obtain the Alchemist Guild's approval before the auction began. The moment Bailey Hongzhuang walked out of Azure Water School, numerous gazes fell on her. Ever since Bailey Hongzhuang came to Azure Water School, she had always been the center of attention. Now, because of the channel opening pill, she had become the center of attention in Azure Water City. Dressed in white, pure as snow, her fine black hair fluttered in the wind, and her appearance was exquisite. She was so beautiful that it was as if she had walked out of a painting. Apart from Bailey Hongzhuang, who else could wear a white robe with such an elegant and otherworldly feeling? Thus, the moment Bailey Hongzhuang appeared, everyone recognized her identity. Gazes filled with curiosity and excitement. The news of Bailey Hongzhuang preparing to auction off 3 channel opening pills had already spread. Everyone knew that Bailey Hongzhuang still had channel opening pills on her. Now, a single channel opening pill represented a sky-high price. Unfortunately, Bailey Hongzhuang was preparing to auction off 3 channel opening pills to Principal Shue's cultivators, so they didn't have a chance. Some merchants became restless, wanting to get close to Bailey Hongzhuang. Perhaps Bailey Hongzhuang still had other channel opening pills on her hands. That was a huge business opportunity. Master, you've become the most popular person in everyone's eyes. Xiaohei's eyes flashed with excitement. It was as if it could see countless gold coins flying towards them. The channel opening pill was too important to cultivators. Almost every cultivator needed it. Because it had been lost, everyone could only endure it. Now that the channel opening pill had appeared, although it was only a second-grade pill, it was no less popular than a high-grade pill. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved into a shallow arc. She also felt the gazes of the people around her. Let them look. At this moment, a pot-bellied middle-aged man walked up to Bailey Hongzhuang's side. His narrow eyes were filled with the shrewdness of a merchant. "Miss Bailey, I would like to discuss a business deal with you. May I know if that's possible?" The man's face was full of smiles as he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang ingratiatingly. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at the man. She had already guessed what he was thinking when he walked over. "Currently, I only plan to sell 3-channel opening pills to the students. I don't plan on doing any other business for now." Bailey Hongzhuang went straight to the point and expressed her attitude. Right now, she mainly focused on cultivation and did not have much desire for money. To her, the most important thing was the points she gained from cultivating in the cultivation tower. Gold coins were only a means to improve her cultivation. She did not intend to neglect the essentials. The middle-aged man immediately understood Bailey Hongzhuang's meaning. He did not continue to pester her and only smiled. "Miss Bailey, if you have any needs, feel free to contact me." The man told Bailey Hongzhuang about the shop he opened in Songlan City before leaving. His goal had already been achieved. When the surrounding merchants saw the middle-aged man leave, they understood that Bailey Hongzhuang did not plan on selling the pills. Thus, they did not approach. The Alchemist Guild was not far from the Mercenary Guild. Usually, many mercenaries would sell the herbs they picked from the mountains to the Alchemist Guild, especially the precious ones. Chapter 313. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the tall and imposing building not far away. On the glazed tiles that reflected the light, there was a pill furnace design that was solemn and magnificent. It was filled with boundless nobility and arrogance, just like the status of an alchemist in the Shangxian continent. The Alchemist Guild was not as lively as the Engineer Guild. A dignified and noble aura greeted them. There were very few people inside, but the surrounding people were full of respect when they looked at the people who walked out. From this, it could be seen that alchemists had a special status in the Shangxian continent. Standing in the Alchemist Guild, Bailey Hongzhuang sized up the environment in front of her. The interior of the Alchemist Guild was filled with a slightly oppressive black color, revealing a dignified and solemn aura. The moment you walked in, you couldn't help but be infected by this atmosphere, and your entire person would become strict and serious. Directly facing the front desk of the Alchemist Guild was a large black table facing the door. A graceful woman was standing in front of the front desk, paying attention to every person who walked in. The Alchemist Guild was very large, but there were very few people inside, so it seemed very spacious. In the Alchemist Guild, there were a few people wearing black robes walking by. This was the alchemist robe that represented glory, and only alchemists could wear it. As long as you wore this robe, you would receive the respect of countless people while walking in the crowd. Every alchemist treated it as a treasure of glory and treasured it. However, the alchemists wearing the alchemist robes were mostly middle-aged people. Because it was very difficult to become an alchemist, the amount of time and energy spent was also not little. So by the time they achieved a certain level of success, they were already not young. Lu Qinyue was fully deserving of the title of a genius alchemist. At such a young age, she had already become a second-rank alchemist. Even in the entire Shangxian continent, there were not many people who could do this. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly walked to the front desk. When the woman at the front desk saw Bailey Hongzhuang arrive, she revealed a polite smile. "Miss, are you here to sell medicinal ingredients or to buy pills?" Young cultivators basically only had these two reasons to come to the Alchemist Guild, so the attendant directly asked. Bailey Hongzhuang faintly smiled. Her smile was incomparably beautiful, and her voice was gentle and sweet. "I'm here to participate in the alchemist examination." As soon as she said this, the waiter looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in surprise, as if he couldn't believe what Bailey Hongzhuang had said. "Miss, you're here to take the alchemist test?" The attendant asked again in disbelief. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded and said firmly, "That's right." Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang answered with such certainty, although the attendant was a little shocked, he quickly regained his composure and said, "The alchemist test is on the second floor. You can take the test after paying 1,000 gold coins." 1,000 gold coins was an enormous number to ordinary people, but to alchemists, This was not a number that had a deterrent force. The reason why the alchemist examination required a fee of 1,000 gold coins was to prevent some people from disrupting the examination. After all, participating in the alchemist test required an alchemist to observe. At this moment, a girl about the same age as Bailey Hongzhuang walked over. The girl was wearing a goose-yellow dress. Her skin was white and clean, and her palm-sized oval face was delicate and charming. But her eyebrows were filled with arrogance. Her line of sight was slanted upwards. No matter if it was her eyes or her demeanor, they all revealed a thick arrogance. It was as if ordinary people could not enter her eyes. I want to participate in the alchemist test. Chapter 314. Miss Wei. The attendant bowed and handed another identity card to Wei Meidai. It was obvious that she recognized Wei Meidai. It just so happens that the two ladies are taking the test together. I will go inform the master. The attendant smiled. Hearing this, Wei Meidai raised her eyebrows, and her gaze fell on Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned. Wei Meidai's gaze was filled with provocation and disdain, as if a superior person was sizing up a lowly person. There was no need to consider the other party's feelings. It was as if just looking at the other party was the other party's glory. She had seen many arrogant people, such as Bailey Yuyin and Xin Yuanhuan. However, this was the first time she saw someone like Wei Meidai. It made her feel disgusted from the bottom of her heart. Which master's disciple are you? Wei Meidai's eyes revealed a trace of disdain. There weren't many young alchemists in Songlan City. Those who dared to take the alchemist test were even fewer. She was very familiar with the Alchemist Guild, but this was the first time she saw the person in front of her. She should be an alchemist apprentice from some remote village. She thought that she was amazing just because she grasped some superficial knowledge. How could it be so easy to pass the alchemist test? Bailey Hongzhuang indifferently glanced at Wei Meidai before looking forward. She had no intention of answering Wei Meidai. Unreasonable people were never worthy of others' respect. Wei Meidai saw that Bailey Hongzhuang didn't even look at her, and a trace of anger appeared on her delicate face. This person who came from some remote village dared to not give her face? Hey, I'm talking to you. Wei Meidai raised her voice and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with displeasure. Do I have to answer just because you're talking to me? Bailey Hongzhuang played down her words. Wei Meidai's words had attracted the attention of everyone in the Alchemist Guild. The Alchemist Guild had always been quiet, but Wei Meidai's words broke the silence. Everyone frowned and looked at Wei Meidai. However, when they saw Wei Meidai herself, they understood. Clearly, Wei Meidai was very familiar with the Alchemist Association. The people here all had a certain understanding of her. Wei Meidai didn't care about everyone's gazes. She only looked at Bailey Hongzhuang sharply. Do you know who I am? In the entire Alchemist Association, other than Lu Qinyue, she did not care about anyone else. No one in the same generation as her dared to give her the slightest bit of face. Since this woman dared to treat her with such an attitude, she would definitely not let her off easily. Not interested. Bailey Hongzhuang's tone was languid and impatient. It was as if Wei Meidai was an annoying fly that she couldn't be bothered with. Wei Meidai's face quickly turned red. Originally, she should have had the upper hand, but now she was being suppressed by Bailey Hongzhuang. Every word she said was blocked by Bailey Hongzhuang, making her choke on her anger and resentment. You. Because of her anger, Wei Meidai's chest constantly heaved up and down. Usually, when she said a threatening sentence, the other party would be endlessly afraid. However, she had never met such a person. Do you know the consequences of offending me? Wei Meidai's eyes slightly narrowed. Her pitch-black and bright almond eyes revealed a threatening and gloomy coldness. This woman dared to make her lose face in front of so many people. Truly hateful. Chapter 315. Hearing these words, Wei Meidai was completely stunned. She was clearly the one threatening Bailey Hongzhuang, but now she was the one being threatened by Bailey Hongzhuang. When the surrounding people saw this scene, they all revealed expressions of watching a good show. Normally, they only saw Wei Meidai bullying others, but this was the first time they saw someone making Wei Meidai suffer. I think you're the one asking for a beating. Bailey Hongzhuang's words completely ignited Wei Meidai's anger. Wei Meidai's face was completely red and her eyes were fierce. She unhesitatingly sent a slap towards Bailey Hongzhuang. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's deep eyes flashed with a cold light. Her right hand shot out like lightning and heavily slapped Wei Meidai's face before the latter's slap could reach her. Pah! The sound of the slap was exceptionally clear in the silence of the Alchemist Guild. Time seemed to freeze for a moment. The surrounding people all stared with their eyes wide open, not daring to believe that this young lady who came for the first time really hit Wei Meidai. Who is this young lady? She actually dares to hit Wei Meidai. I've never seen her before, but this young lady's appearance is outstanding and her temperament is extraordinary. She shouldn't be an ordinary person. Have you heard of the Azure Water School's Bailey Hongzhuang, who has the channel-opening pill? Wearing a white dress, elegant and refined, exquisite beyond compare. This young lady's image is too fitting. When this person mentioned Bailey Hongzhuang's name, everyone's faces revealed expressions of understanding. The people of the Alchemist Guild weren't interested in cultivators. What they cared about was alchemy. Therefore, they might not know what kind of cultivation genius appeared in the Azure Water School. But Bailey Hongzhuang, who had the channel-opening pill, had a resounding reputation in the Alchemist Guild. However, none of them would have thought that Bailey Hongzhuang's age was actually so young. You're right, this young lady is most likely Bailey Hongzhuang. After confirming Bailey Hongzhuang's identity, the anticipation in everyone's eyes intensified. It seemed that this was destined to be a good show. Wei Meidai stood rooted to the ground in a daze. She felt a burning pain on her right cheek. Under the burning pain, she felt a deep sense of humiliation. She had lived arrogantly for so many years. She had always been the one slapping others, but no one had ever slapped her. However, this woman actually dared to hit her. At this moment, extreme madness appeared in Wei Meidai's eyes. The curious gazes from the surrounding people only fueled her anger. I will kill you. Wei Meidai was enraged. She couldn't care less about her image and attacked Wei Meidai directly. The moment Wei Meidai made her move, Bailey Hongzhuang knew that this fellow had put all her energy into studying alchemy and was not proficient in cultivation. She was simply unable to pose any threat to her. Bang! Bailey Hongzhuang immediately pinned Wei Meidai down on the counter with her hands behind her back. An enchanting smile blossomed on her exquisite and beautiful face. Her eyes were as sharp as knives, like a bolt of lightning cutting through the void. Her voice was cold and indifferent. Don't disturb me while I'm talking. Otherwise, I'll let you know how to write the word regret. Wei Meidai was stunned. She looked at the exquisite face in front of her in horror. She felt a chill run up her spine from the bottom of her feet. Seeing the fear and nervousness in Wei Meidai's eyes, Bailey Hongzhuang released her hand and stood to the side with an indifferent expression. Chapter 316. Wei Meidai rubbed her aching hand. Just now, when Bailey Hongzhuang attacked, her strength wasn't small at all. Her wrist already had a purple bruise. Her dark and watery eyes flashed with resentment. Wei Meidai hated Bailey Hongzhuang in her heart. She had never lost face in front of so many people. Only, Bailey Hongzhuang's strength made her fearful. She didn't dare to act rashly. Otherwise, she was really afraid that Bailey Hongzhuang would do something to harm her. I'll let you off for now. This debt, I'll definitely get it back 1,000 times. Wei Meidai fiercely said in her heart. The front desk attendant quickly walked over. She was keenly aware that something seemed to have happened when she left. Wei Meidai's attitude was no longer as arrogant as before. I've already notified the examiner master. The two of you can go to the second floor. The female attendant smiled. Bailey Hongzhuang turned and walked to the second floor. When everyone saw Bailey Hongzhuang and Wei Meidai go to the second floor together, they immediately understood the reason why Bailey Hongzhuang came to the Alchemist Guild. Their eyes immediately lit up with interest. In the entire Canglan city, other than Lu Qinyue, only Wei Meidai was able to participate in the alchemist examination at such a young age. Bailey Hongzhuang was the third person. Bailey Hongzhuang had just walked to the second floor when she saw the signboard not far away. There were 3 big words written on it. Examination Hall. Wei Meidai walked in front of Bailey Hongzhuang. Her familiar appearance seemed to want to tell Bailey Hongzhuang that her status in the Alchemist Guild was not ordinary. Unfortunately, Bailey Hongzhuang wasn't the slightest bit interested in this. When Bailey Hongzhuang and Wei Meidai walked into the examination hall, a middle-aged man was already standing inside. The man wore a black alchemist robe. On the chest of the robe, there were 2 shining stars, representing his status, a second-tier alchemist. Alchemist Tong. Wei Meidai's face revealed a smile as she sweetly called out. Tong Qingyuan slightly nodded. Wei girl, today is your 3rd time participating in the first-tier alchemist examination. I will definitely succeed this time. Wei Meidai's eyes flashed with determination. This time, she had put in a lot of effort to participate in the assessment. She believed that she would definitely succeed. Seeing Wei Meidai's confidence, Tong Qingyuan smiled lovingly. Your master didn't come today? Master will be here later. Tong Qingyuan's gaze then landed on Bailey Hongzhuang. Miss, are you also here to participate in the Grade 1 Alchemist examination? No. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head. Wei Meidai looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in astonishment. She had clearly heard the front desk attendant say that Bailey Hongzhuang was here to participate in the alchemist assessment. Could it be that she had made a mistake? Wei Meidai was speechless. Could it be that she had made a mistake? Since that was the case, what was she doing in the examination hall? Tong Qingyuan had the same doubts. He didn't understand what this lady was doing here. However, Bailey Hongzhuang's next sentence caused Tong Qingyuan and Wei Meidai to fall into shock. I am here to participate in the second-tier alchemist examination. Tong Qingyuan's gentle face couldn't help but reveal a surprised expression. Bailey Hongzhuang's age didn't seem to be more than 15 or 16 years old. She actually announced that she wanted to participate in the second-tier alchemist examination. Wei Meidai was also stunned. However, in the next moment, she couldn't help but laugh.